Chapter 350. Qin Feiyang said, "You guys can be so righteous even after killing and robbing. I really admire you guys. However, I am very sorry. In my, Qin Feiyang's dictionary, the word tactful does not exist. Let me give you a piece of advice. You'd better get out of the way immediately." Qin Feiyang had already lost his patience. Robbing in broad daylight. These people were simply lawless. Did they really think he was a pushover? Lu Zhou screamed. "Oh my, did you hear that? He's threatening us?" Haha. The people around them laughed loudly. It was as if they had heard the funniest joke in the world. Their eyebrows were also filled with mockery and contempt. The woman looked at the burly man next to her and said respectfully, "Leader, we should just kill this arrogant guy." The burly man was wearing a golden tiger fur coat. He had a burly body and a rugged face. He was filled with a valiant aura. He looked at Qin Feiyang with a murderous look in his eyes. "Kill them." Following his command, the people holding the big iron bows all pulled out an arrow from the quiver on their backs. They drew the bows and loaded the arrows in one go. Whoosh! Immediately, more than 10 cold arrows shot toward Qin Feiyang and Wolf King like poisonous snakes bearing their fangs. In an instant, the void here was filled with a murderous aura. Whoosh! At this moment, Qin Feiyang made his move. He used the wind riding steps and kept dodging the arrows as he went straight toward Lu Zhou and the other two. "He's so fast. Quick, 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 stop him." The three of them changed their expressions. Qin Feiyang obviously wanted to kill them first. Lu Zhou had personally experienced Qin Feiyang's strength. The tall young man and the woman had also seen it with their own eyes. Even if they joined forces, they might not be a match for him. Before he finished speaking, two burly men stepped forward and stood in front of Qin Feiyang. Boom! The two of them threw a punch. A powerful aura swept out in all directions and the snow danced in the air. These two men were 5-star battle kings. Whoosh! In the meantime, more than a dozen arrows shot towards Qin Feiyang's legs like bolts of lightning. Qin Feiyang shouted, "White-eyed wolf, kill all those people who shot arrows." "I've been waiting for you to say that." Wolf King's eyes glowed with an ominous light. He jumped down from Qin Feiyang's shoulder. "Tremble, you ants!" With a roar, it instantly activated Berserk Rage and transformed into a muscular wolf. Those arrows that were shot over were like dead wood in front of it, unable to withstand a single blow. With a wave of its claws, the arrows were all shattered. Following closely, it rushed towards the men who had shot the arrows. What? It can actually transform. The surrounding Lu tribe members were all shocked, their faces filled with disbelief. Ah! 2 screams were heard. 2 men with iron bows had their heads smashed by the Wolf King's claws. In its berserk state, it possessed the combat strength of a 7-star battle emperor. Those who had shot the arrows were basically 1-star to 3-breath battle kings. How could they be its match? It was a one-sided slaughter. One after another, blood-curdling screams sounded out in succession. One after another, the clansmen of the Lu tribe continuously fell into pools of blood. Fresh blood dyed the snowy ground red. It was a ghastly sight. At the same time, Qin Feiyang was also fearless as he charged towards the 2 5-star battle kings. The moment they met, he raised both of his hands and golden light burst out from his palms. Both of his hands circulated the return formula at the same time. As the fists and palms collided, the 2 men immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Their entire arms exploded on the spot, and were sent flying. Even 5-star battle kings are not his match. Lu Zhou and the other 2 were shocked. Only now did they realize that this was an enemy that was more terrifying than they had imagined. "I've been very polite to you, but you've schemed against me again and again. You're simply courting death." Qin Feiyang did not stop as he charged towards Lu Zhou and the other 2. Lu Zhou roared, "Chief, hurry up and attack. You're the only one who can kill him now." When the chief of the Lu tribe saw Wolf King killing in all directions, his murderous intent had already been aroused. "Little bastard, you've killed my tribesmen. You deserve death." He took a step forward and his aura exploded. He stretched out his fan-like hand and slapped towards Qin Feiyang's head. It was a 9-star battle king. "You're the only one who's allowed to rob, and we're not allowed to kill your tribesmen." What a joke! Qin Feiyang was so angry that he laughed and slapped back without flinching. The return formula was displayed. The two big hands collided with a loud bang. Boom. A terrifying wave of air rolled out in all directions with the two of them as the center point. Lu Zhou and the others were immediately sent flying by the wave of air. Their bodies shook violently as they spat out blood. He can still fight with the chief? Many people found it unbelievable. The people who were hiding in the tribe also stared with their eyes wide open in disbelief. But in the next moment, an even more shocking scene appeared. The chief actually spat out a mouthful of blood. His body retreated continuously, and the golden tiger skin coat on his body was instantly torn apart. His robust body was revealed. As for his arm, it was lacerated and bleeding profusely. Looking at Qin Feiyang again, he was also retreating, and his arm was also badly mutilated. However, one had to know that he was only a 4-star battle king, and the chief was a 9-star battle king. There was a difference of 5 small realms. He was actually able to fight the chief of the Lu tribe to a standstill. Putting everything else aside, just based on this point alone, he was the victor. Lu Zhou and the other two were stunned. This was his true strength. It was actually so terrifying. However, they did not realize that a crisis was approaching. They saw Qin Feiyang rushing towards the three of them, as if he had transformed into a blood-soaked god of war. His eyes were filled with bone-chilling killing intent. By the time they reacted, Qin Feiyang had already arrived in front of them. "Don't kill us. We know we were wrong. We'll kneel and apologize to you." The three of them were immediately scared out of their wits. They knelt in the snow and kowtowed with all their might. The situation has developed to this point. Do you think an apology is of any use? Qin Feiyang's big hand reached out and smashed the heads of the three without mercy. Bang! Bang! Immediately, the three of them fell to the ground and died. Only their terrified screams echoed in the sky above the tribe, and did not dissipate for a long time. After killing the three of them, Qin Feiyang took out a healing pill with 2 patterns and threw it into his mouth. His badly mutilated arm immediately healed. At the same time, the battle on Wolf King's side had also ended. Except for the chief of the Lu tribe and the black-clothed old man, everyone else was killed. Corpses lay on the snow, and blood dyed a large area red. It was like Azura hell, and the smell of blood was pungent. "How dare you steal our cosmos bags with such little strength?" Wolf King walked to Qin Feiyang's side, and looked at the chief of the Lu tribe and the black-clothed old man. His bell-like eyes were filled with contempt. "They're all dead." The two of them did not seem to hear as they glanced at the corpses of their tribesmen. Their hands were clenched tightly, and their hearts were bleeding. These people were the elites of the tribe and the pillars of the tribe. They did not expect that in just a moment, they were all lying on the ground. "I'm going to tear you to pieces." The chief of the Lu tribe suddenly looked at Qin Feiyang and Wolf King with a twisted and ferocious face. "You're blaming us? If it weren't for your insatiable greed, would they have died? If you really want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself. You caused their deaths." Qin Feiyang said lightly. Under the healing pill's healing, the wound on his arm had already healed. He was confident that he could get rid of the chief of the Lu tribe. "Haha. No matter what you say, you have to die today." The chief laughed angrily. "If I don't kill you, they won't be able to rest in peace." The black-clothed old man also spoke. His voice was hoarse and low, and full of strong killing intent. Boom! The two of them trembled and activated their fighting souls at the same time. The chief's fighting soul was a black panther. Its body was dozens of meters long, and it was ferocious. The black-clothed old man's fighting soul was a giant sickle, like the sickle of the Grim Reaper. Its body was pitch black, and the sawtooth revealed an astonishing sharpness. "You guys are really stubborn. Stand still, don't be scared by me." Wolf King laughed, and his body emitted a golden light, and a giant golden beast shadow appeared behind him. "Strip!" Wolf King shouted. The two fighting souls immediately floated toward the golden beast shadow. In the end, they were swallowed by the golden beast shadow. How could this be? The two of them were terrified. They were actually swallowed? What kind of fighting soul was that? It was too scary. However, in the next moment, their bodies and minds trembled, and their faces were filled with disbelief. They could not summon their fighting souls anymore. Now kill! Qin Feiyang shouted in a low voice. The man and wolf were like the Grim Reaper, and they rushed toward the two of them. Chief High Priest, be careful! Seeing this, the people hiding in the tribe hurriedly shouted. The two of them quivered and suddenly came back to their senses. Without hesitation, they raised their fists and punched toward Qin Feiyang and Wolf King. However, it was obviously a little hasty. Let me do it! Qin Feiyang shouted. He stretched out both hands and used the return formula. Bang! The three of them were sent flying at the same time. The Wolf King seized the opportunity and pounced at the black-clothed old man, crushing his throat in one bite. Ah! Screams resounded through the sky. Bastard! The chief bared his teeth. As he stabilized his body, he charged toward Wolf King angrily. Hey! Wolf King grinned. He did not dodge. Instead, he waved his thick claws and rushed toward the chief. I'll kill you now. The chief laughed sinisterly. Although Wolf King was very strong, he was still a long way from a 9-star battle king. He was confident that he could blast Wolf King's head with one punch. Chief, be careful behind you. But at this moment, the 4 burly men guarding the gate shouted in unison. The chief felt a chill on his back and hurriedly turned his head to look. Immediately, he saw Qin Feiyang holding a dagger and pouncing toward him. There was a devilish smile on that slightly immature face. It's over. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth and stabbed the chief between his eyebrows, penetrating his entire head. At the same time, Wolf King also pounced and slashed the chief's throat with his claws. Blood spurted out like a fountain. Chapter 351. Wolf King said, Little Qinzi, are you okay? I'm fine. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Earlier, he fought the high priest and the chief by himself. Although he had the return technique, his arms were torn apart and almost crippled. Fortunately, the two of them were dead. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have the strength to fight back now. The chief is dead. The high priest is also dead. Why did this happen? Why are you so cruel? Let's go together and kill them. At this moment, a large group of people rushed out of the tribe with a menacing aura. Wolf King's eyes flashed fiercely, and he said coldly, If you dare to take another step forward, I'll slaughter your entire tribe, and not leave a single one alive. Those people stopped in unison. Their faces were full of anger, but at the same time, there was also fear. Although the person called Qin Feiyang was seriously injured, the wolf was still alive and kicking. The most important thing was that the strongest person in the tribe was only a 1-star battle king. No one was a match for the wolf. They were afraid. If that wolf really unleashed its ferocious nature, then today the Lu tribe would be doomed. Qin Feiyang put away the Chang Shui, took a supreme-grade healing pill, and asked, Which tribe is the strongest here? No one in the Lu tribe answered. They all looked at him with hatred. Do you want to die? I'll help you. Wolf King was furious. With a terrifying murderous aura, he walked toward the gate. The strongest is the Purple Sun tribe. Someone immediately answered. Wolf King stopped and glanced at them one by one. He sneered and said, If I don't use some ruthless means, you won't be honest. No one dared to look into his eyes. They all lowered their heads and shivered. Qin Feiyang asked again, How far is the Purple Sun tribe from here? Someone said, Very far. It takes a battle king 5 or 6 years to get there. So far. Qin Feiyang frowned. The heavenly thunder flame was a 6th-grade pillfire. People in small tribes definitely didn't know. Therefore, he had to go to the Purple Sun tribe and ask those big shots. But he couldn't afford to waste 5 or 6 years. He pondered for a moment. He asked again, Do you know the coordinates of the Ziyang tribe? Everyone shook their heads. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, How many tribes are there in the vicinity? Which tribe is the strongest? A brawny man said, There are more than 10 tribes of different sizes within 100 miles. The He tribe is the strongest. Qin Feiyang asked, Where? The brawny man said, Go straight south. When you see a glacier, you'll see the He tribe. Bingha. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, glanced at the people in front of the fence, and said, Don't make any more trouble. Otherwise, this ruffian wolf will really slaughter your Lu tribe. Let's go. Qin Feiyang called out, turned around, and rushed to the east. Wolf King bared his teeth and glared at the people of the Lu tribe. Then he turned around and chased after Qin Feiyang. After the man and the wolf had left, the people of the Lu tribe rushed out and rushed towards the corpses of the chief and the high priest. Damn bastards! We can't let them off easily. Yes, we have to kill them and avenge the chief and the others. Everyone roared with righteous indignation. A one-star battle king shouted, Lu Yu, come here. A 25-year-old black-clothed youth walked out from the crowd. He looked at the chief's corpse with red eyes and a face full of resentment. The one-star battle king said, Lu Yu, as the only son of the chief, you must avenge the chief and the others. Lu Yu said with grief and indignation, I'm only a 5-star martial ancestor now. How can I avenge them? I have a way. The one-star battle king stood up and muttered a few words in Lu Yu's ear. Okay, I'll go now. Lu Yu nodded and immediately ran into the tribe. In the center of the tribe, there was a tall wooden building. That was the chief's residence. Lu Yu ran into the wooden building without stopping. He entered the study and stood in front of a bookshelf. On the bookshelf, there were books neatly arranged. Lu Yu glanced at the books and reached out to grab one of the books, moving it slightly. Crack! Immediately, the bookshelf, which was originally one piece, split in the middle and slowly moved to the sides. A secret room appeared. The secret room was only 2 to 3 meters wide, and there was a stone platform in the middle. On the stone platform, there were 6 qianquan bags and a metal box. Lu Yu walked to the front of the stone platform and directly opened the metal box. Inside was a door that was the size of a baby's palm and emitted a hazy glow. It was the teleportation door. He grabbed the teleportation door and the 3 qianquan bags and put them in his arms before walking out of the secret room. After the bookshelf closed, Lu Yu opened the teleportation door and stepped in. The next moment, he appeared in front of the gate of a tribe. This tribe was several times larger than the Lu tribe and was formed by thousands of wooden buildings. It occupied an area of 5 to 6 square kilometers. Not far from the tribe, there was an ice river that was more than 10 meters wide. The river flowed very slowly. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't even notice that the river was flowing. Wisps of white mist rose continuously and the cold air was bone-piercing. On the gate of the tribe, there were 4 bold and powerful words engraved. He tribe. At the gate stood 4 burly men, all wearing black wolf fur coats. Aren't you the son of the Lu tribe's leader? What did you come to our He tribe for? Seeing Lu Yu suddenly appear, the 4 of them couldn't help but be stunned. Lu Yu cupped his hands and said, This junior has something to request an audience with leader He. I hope that the 4 of you can inform him. Request an audience with the leader? The 4 of them looked at each other and were even more puzzled. Follow me. One of the burly men turned around and walked into the tribe. Lu Yu followed closely. Why did he suddenly come to our tribe? It seems like he used a teleportation door. I remember that the Lu tribe only has one teleportation door, and usually treasures it like a treasure. They're actually using it this time? Really strange. The 3 burly men at the gate started discussing in low voices. A wooden building that was more than 10 meters tall was located in the center of the He tribe. After a moment, Lu Yu and that burly man came to the door. The door was tightly shut and it was completely silent. That burly man said respectfully, Leader, the son of the Lu tribe's leader, Lu Yu, requests an audience. Let him in. A hoarse voice came from inside the house. That burly man reached out and pushed open the door. Inside was a spacious hall. There was a bonfire in the center, burning fiercely and dispelling the cold current. Beside the bonfire, there was a wolf that was more than a meter long. That wolf had already been skinned. The surface was roasted golden, and the fragrance of meat filled the entire hall. Beside it, there was a wide couch covered with a layer of golden wolf skin. A black-clothed old man was lying comfortably on the couch. There were also 2 rather beautiful maids in their 20s serving at the side. One fed him wine and meat. The other sat beside the seat and gently massaged his legs. This simple life was very comfortable. That burly man brought Lu Yu and walked in front of the black-clothed old man. Lu Yu bowed and said, Junior Lu Yu greets leader He Yuan. He Yuan glanced at him indifferently and said, What are you looking for me for? Lu Yu said. Junior wants to ask the leader to kill someone. He Yuan frowned and asked who. Lu Yu said. A person called Qin Feiyang. He has a wolf by his side. Wolf? He Yuan and the burly man's eyes lit up at the same time. The burly man asked, why do you want to kill them? Lu Yu said resentfully, they killed my father, the high priest, and more than 30 war kings of my Lu tribe. What? The burly man and the two mates turned pale with fright. He Yuan also suddenly stood up. His old eyes flickered as he asked, how strong are they? Lu Yu said, very strong, but they haven't broken through to the War Emperor realm. If they haven't reached the War Emperor realm, then there's nothing to worry about. He Yuan smiled disdainfully and said, however, why should I help you? Lu Yu took out the 3 cosmos bags and handed them to He Yuan with both hands, saying, this is half of my Lu tribe's savings, I wonder if it's enough? He Yuan's eyes flashed as he raised his head to look at the burly man. The burly man understood and grabbed the 3 cosmos bags. After checking them one by one, he nodded to He Yuan. He Yuan pondered for a moment and nodded. All right, I agree to help you. Tell me the details of their situation. Thank you, leader. Lu Yu was wild with joy. At the same time, a young man in white was walking on a glacier. It was Qin Feiyang. Wolf King lay on his shoulder and complained. What the hell is this place? It's too cold. You're so hairy and you're still saying it's cold? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Wolf King suddenly said, little Qinzi, do you think we're still in the great Qin Empire? I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Ferocious beasts from 10,000 years ago, large and small tribes. These were things he had never come into contact with before. If we're not in the great Qin Empire, where would we be? Wolf King's eyes were filled with doubt. Time flew by. 2 hours had passed. Qin Feiyang walked and stopped all the way until he finally arrived at the glacier. Of course, if he traveled at full speed, it wouldn't have taken him so long. However, he had to heal his injuries. In this strange place, he had to be in peak condition at all times. He stood on the shore and looked up. He could clearly see the He tribe on the other side. I hope this trip is not in vain, Qin Feiyang muttered. He suddenly jumped up and landed on the other side steadily, walking toward the He tribe. Without waiting for Qin Feiyang to approach the He clan, the 4 large men guarding the entrance had already noticed him. It's him. The eyes of the burly man who took Lu Yu to He Yuan 2 hours ago lit up. It's the first time I've seen a wolf that can transform and talk. I just don't know if there's any difference between its meat and that of other wolves. I really want to taste it. He Qing, why don't we kill them here? The other 3 men licked their lips with a fierce look in their eyes. Don't act rashly. They killed the chief and high priest of the Lu tribe, which is enough to show that their strength is comparable to a 9-star warrior. I'm afraid only the chief of our He tribe has the ability to kill them, He Qing whispered. Hearing this, the 3 men frowned, but then the corners of their mouths curled into a sneer. Chapter 352. At the same time, Qin Feiyang was also sizing up He Qing and the other 3. The 4 of them all had the strength of a 3-star battle king. In the tribe, there were no less than 100 battle king auras. Their overall strength was indeed several times stronger than the Lu tribe. But suddenly, his expression changed, and a cold light flashed past the depths of his eyes. Because He Qing and the other 3 were all wearing wolf pelts. Wolf King had followed him through life and death, and he had long regarded Wolf King as family. Thus, he had an inexplicable good impression of other wolves, no matter what species they were. At this moment, when he saw the 4 of them wearing wolf pelt coats, he instantly lost his good impression of the He tribe. Similarly, seeing his own kind being killed and their fur being skinned, Wolf King couldn't help but feel a killing intent in his heart. Calm down. When Qin Feiyang detected the Wolf King's change, he secretly sent a sound transmission to comfort it. Right now, they hadn't figured out the strength of the He tribe, so they couldn't act rashly. Walking in front of the 4 of them, Qin Feiyang was about to speak. Wolf King was the first to speak. Call your leader out. He can really talk. The eyes of the 4 lit up. He Qing said. Follow me, the leader has been waiting for a long time. Finished speaking. He Qing turned around and walked into the tribe. He knew we were coming? Qin Feiyang and Wolf King looked at each other, their eyes filled with surprise. Hurry up and go. What are you waiting for? It's your fortune that the leader is willing to see you. Don't dilly-dally. The other three berated. That's not right. Little Qinzi, there's a problem here. Wolf King sent a sound transmission. They had just arrived at the Forgotten Land, so how could the people of the He tribe know about them? It was even more impossible for them to know that they would come to the He tribe. The only explanation was that someone had tipped off the He tribe. As for the person who had tipped them off, there was no doubt that it was the Lu tribe. Isn't solving problems what we're best at? A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he strode in. As soon as they entered the tribe, the three men closed the door and looked at the man and the wolf with cold eyes. Qin Feiyang glanced at the three of them, but his expression didn't change at all. He followed behind He Qing and looked around. Gradually, he realized that those who were slightly stronger were all wearing wolf fur coats. Qin Feiyang frowned and asked, "If I may ask, why are you wearing wolf skins?" He Qing turned his head to look at the Wolf King on Qin Feiyang's shoulder. His eyes flashed and he turned his head again. In our He clan, wolves represent a kind of honor. Being able to kill wolves is a symbol of strength. Only those who wear a coat made by Wolf King are qualified to be called strong. He Qing did not hide anything, but his eyes flashed with a fierce light. However, the murderous light in Wolf King's eyes was even more shocking. If it weren't for Qin Feiyang stopping him, he would have killed in all directions and turned the He clan's tribe into a river of blood. A moment later, under He Qing's lead, a man and a wolf walked into the wooden building where He Yuan was. "Bastard, you've gone too far." As soon as he entered the hall and saw the golden wolf roasted by the bonfire, Wolf King exploded on the spot. He Yuan looked at Wolf King and his eyes lit up. "Not bad, I like you. Now I'll give you two choices. First, follow me from now on. Whatever I tell you to do, you will do it. Second, I'll kill you, roast you and eat you. Your meat should be delicious." He Yuan chuckled as he spoke, and he'd completely taken Qin Feiyang to be heir and disregarded him. Interesting. Qin Feiyang crossed his arms, the corner of his mouth pursed with a trace of playfulness, and said, "Make trouble, do whatever you want." Heard of it? Wolf King chuckled and looked at He Yuan with disdain. "Follow you. Why don't you go take a piss and look at yourself? Brother will also give you two choices. First, be my human pet. In the future, wherever I point you will go. Second, I will kill all your clansmen and make you beg for death." Wolf King bared his teeth, his eyes full of ridicule. He Yuan's face darkened. Seeing this, He Qing shouted at Wolf King, "You actually dare to offend the leader. You must have eaten the heart of a leopard. You're the one who ate the heart of a leopard. Brother has tolerated you for a long time. Who do you think you are? How dare you yell at brother? You're courting death." Wolf King flew into a rage. He rushed out from Qin Feiyang's shoulder and slapped He Qing's head with his claws. He Qing immediately screamed, his head burst open, and fell to the ground, dying on the spot. The two mates couldn't help but scream when they saw this bloody scene. Their faces were filled with fear. He Yuan also suddenly stood up, his old eyes filled with killing intent. "Human pet, do you still want to rebel?" Wolf King jumped up and landed on Qin Feiyang's shoulder, looking down at He Yuan from above. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Boom. A terrifying pressure suddenly roared out from He Yuan's body, pouncing towards the man and wolf. War Emperor. Qin Feiyang frowned. So this person was an expert of the War Emperor realm. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant. But even if it was a war sect, he wasn't afraid, let alone a mere war emperor. He said indifferently, "I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just wanted to ask for the coordinates of the Ziyang tribe, so please behave yourself." It would have been better if Qin Feiyang didn't say this, but once he said this, He Yuan thought that Qin Feiyang was afraid of him. He Yuan said, "Now I'll give you two choices." But before he could finish, Qin Feiyang said impatiently, "This choice, that choice, aren't you tired of it?" He Yuan was startled, and immediately laughed sinisterly. "Little bastard, there is a price to pay for being arrogant. I will crush your head." As soon as he finished speaking, killing intent surged in his eyes. Taking a step forward, his old hand reached out like an eagle's claw, grabbing towards Qin Feiyang's head. Qin Feiyang was not afraid in the slightest and said indifferently, "Are you sure you want to make a move?" Still so calm? He Yuan's eyes revealed astonishment, and he laughed sinisterly. "Then I'll kill that wolf first, and then I'll skin it and roast it in front of you. Let's see if you can still be so calm. You won't cry until you're in the coffin." Qin Feiyang's gaze turned cold, and he instantly disappeared with Wolf King. "Where is he?" He Yuan's eyes widened as he hurriedly scanned his surroundings. But there wasn't even a shadow. "What's going on?" Lu Yu walked out from behind a screen, his face also full of surprise. He Yuan suddenly turned his head and said sternly, "You still dare to ask me? Why didn't you tell me earlier that he had such an ability?" Lu Yu's body and mind trembled, and he shook his head in horror. "I don't know either." He Yuan raised his eyebrows. But at this moment, Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air, glanced at Lu Yu, and ran outside. Lu Yu shouted, "He's appeared again." He Yuan turned around and shouted, "Stop right there." But Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear, and ran out of the hall like a wisp of smoke. Running out of the hall, he went to the castle again. "Damn bastard." He Yuan flew into a rage and chased after him. Lu Yu also hurriedly ran out. But there was no trace of Qin Feiyang at all. He Yuan looked not far away and shouted, "Did you see that man and wolf?" There was a group of children playing there, and some adults were watching over them. Hearing that, those people shook their heads and looked at He Yuan in confusion. What the hell is going on? He Yuan's mind was in a mess. Lu Yu stood behind He Yuan, also in extreme disbelief. As soon as they appeared, they disappeared as soon as they ran out of the hall. Could it be that they were ghosts? Shua. At this moment, Qin Feiyang silently appeared behind Lu Yu. He grabbed Lu Yu's arm. Lu Yu's body trembled, and he immediately screamed in panic. Shua. In the next moment, both of them disappeared. Just as the two of them disappeared, He Yuan suddenly turned his head. Seeing that Lu Yu had also disappeared, he couldn't help but feel his scalp explode. Was this a human or a ghost? Everyone, pay attention. From now on, be careful and alert. If you find that man and wolf, inform me immediately. He Yuan's roar alarmed the entire He clan. At the same time, inside the castle, Qin Feiyang, Fatso, and Wolf King surrounded Lu Yu, their eyes shining with a cold light. However, Lu Yu was extremely terrified. Where was this place? Was he still in the He clan? Wolf King glanced at the pangolin dozing off and said angrily, "You idiot, don't you have eyes? Quickly come and help." "He's just a martial ancestor, does he need my help?" the pangolin said unhappily. Fatso said, "It's not a matter of helping or not, it's a matter of attitude. Your attitude is very insincere, you know." The pangolin said angrily, "Then what? Is this considered sincere?" Fatso said, "You have to really integrate into our small team, unite with us and advance side by side." Wolf King nodded and said, "Yes, we'll share blessings and we'll share misfortunes." "It's really troublesome." The pangolin pursed his lips unhappily, but suddenly he was stunned and said, "Wait, what did you say? We'll share blessings and we'll share misfortunes?" Wolf King was stunned, coughed dryly and said, "I'm sorry, I said something wrong. What I want to say is, we'll share misfortunes." "You're talking nonsense," asked Qin Feiyang and Fatso, "who doesn't know your character?" "If I believe your nonsense, sooner or later I will be scammed by you." The pangolin snorted coldly, his eyes full of disdain. Wolf King was a little annoyed. "It can talk too?" Lu Yu, who was at the side, looked at the pangolin in disbelief. "What are you looking at?" The pangolin was extremely angry, and ran up to beat him up, causing Lu Yu to scream miserably. "Scream your sister, shut up for this king. Speak, who are you? Why do you want to harm Qin Feiyang? If you don't tell me the truth, this king will find a stick and stab your chrysanthemum." The pangolin roared. Lu Yu's chrysanthemum tightened, and said in fear, "I am the son of the Lu tribe's leader." At this moment, he told her everything that had happened without concealing anything. Finished. Seeing the two of them, the eyes of the two beasts became extremely cold. He quivered and hurriedly said, I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again. Let me go, I promise you. I won't provoke you again. Chapter 353. Lu Yu asked, What's the problem? Fatso shook his head and said, Are you an idiot? Can't you see that Brother Wolf wants to kill you? Hearing this, Lu Yu's face turned pale. You don't have to do this kind of thing. I'll take care of it. The pangolin roared and beat him up again. He finally vented all the anger he had suffered from Wolf King. Seeing that Lu Yu was about to be beaten to death, Wolf King hurriedly said, Stop, don't kill him. The pangolin said angrily, Didn't you say you wanted to kill him? Wolf King said, When did I say that? That's just Fatso's self-righteous idea. Fatso was stunned and puzzled. Then what are you going to do? Wolf King said angrily. How did you become so stupid? Of course, we're going to rob the Lu tribe. Rob. The pangolin was stunned and muttered. It seems interesting. It couldn't help but be eager to try. Fatso also suddenly realized and said with a sneaky smile, Brother Wolf is really shameless. Damn, looking for trouble? Wolf King glared at him and asked, Do you have a portal on you? Of course. Fatso patted his chest. That's good. Let's split up. Fatso, little follower, you take Lu Yu and go to the Lu tribe immediately. Brother and little Qinzi stay here and turn the He tribe upside down. Wolf King said. Leave it to Fat Lord. Fatso laughed. Throughout the whole process, Qin Feiyang did not interrupt. It was a tacit agreement. However, he felt more or less helpless. Only when doing this kind of thing would the ruffian wolf be so enthusiastic. Wolf King jumped and landed on Qin Feiyang's shoulder, roaring in high spirits. Let's go out and do something big. What should we do? Qin Feiyang asked. Kill everyone above the War King level. Wolf King's ferocious nature erupted. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. With a thought, he appeared outside with Fatso and the pangolin. Fatso immediately opened a portal and walked in with Lu Yu. Interesting. The pangolin chuckled and quickly followed. Coincidentally, at this moment, two burly men dressed in wolfskins walked towards them. He has appeared. Leader, come out. As soon as they saw Qin Feiyang, the two of them shouted. In the meantime, his battle chi surged as he activated his fighting soul and charged towards Qin Feiyang. Both of them were 3-star battle kings. An ant trying to shake a tree. Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. He was now a 4-star battle king, and he could easily crush both of them. He struck out with his palm. Red-colored sword chi appeared and transformed into a shocking storm that swept out. The two of them died on the spot. They were minced into pieces by the sword chi, and their blood dyed the sky red. At this moment, He Yuan ran out of the hall. When he saw this scene, he was instantly enraged. Damn bastard, I'm going to kill you. He charged towards Qin Feiyang at lightning speed. His entire body was filled with bone-chilling killing intent. The show has just begun. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and opened a portal. He then turned around and glanced at He Yuan before stepping into it. In the next moment, he appeared in front of the He clan's gate. Leader, he's here. The 3 men guarding the gate were shocked. As they shouted, they used their battle arts and charged towards Qin Feiyang. You want to kill me with just the 3 of you? Qin Feiyang pointed his finger at them. Red-colored sword chi surged out like a raging wave. In the blink of an eye, it engulfed the 3 men. 3 cries of agony were heard too. Next, the red-colored sword chi whizzed past. It destroyed the gate of the clan. It shattered the tall fence. The few wooden buildings close to the door instantly collapsed and turned into ruins. 6 burly men dressed in wolf skins rushed out of the ruins. All of them were covered in cuts and bruises, and were bleeding profusely. Little bastard, you dare to destroy our clan's gate. Today, even if you have wings, you can't fly away. The 6 men roared and angrily rushed towards Qin Feiyang. 4 of them activated their battle souls. The other 2, although they did not have battle souls, they also took out a pitch-black broadsword. Ayo. Qin Feiyang was about to make a move, but Wolf King rushed out first. He directly activated the Berserker's Fury. Its aura, like a volcanic eruption, soared crazily. It took a step forward and swung its two thick claws like two arms. His terrifying strength crushed everything in its path. In the blink of an eye, those 6 burly men with painful screams flew out horizontally, blood spurting out of their mouths. Immediately, like 6 blood-stained meteorites, they smashed into several wooden buildings and then never appeared again. A few wooden buildings also collapsed. Damned beast. I'm going to kill you all and avenge them. If you have the guts, don't run today. One by one, people wearing wolf skins rushed over from all directions, all of them brimming with killing intent. Enough to kill 30 to 40 people. Whiz. At the same time, a black shadow broke through the air. It was He Yuan. When he saw the ruins and the corpses lying on the ground, his eyes couldn't help but turn red. Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked, saying, "It's too late to regret now." Regret? Haha. You killed my clansmen, destroyed my clan's gate, and still dare to say such words. You really don't know what's good for you. Let me tell you, the one who regrets today will be you. He Yuan's face was sinister. The pressure completely erupted, enveloping Qin Feiyang and Wolf King. Wolf King said, "His strongest aura is about the same as Elder Wan's." Qin Feiyang nodded and said, "This means that he is a 1-star war emperor. And here I was thinking how strong he was. So it's just SOSO. If there's a perfect opportunity, I can still kill him." Wolf King sneered. The gap between the War King and the War Emperor was not small. If it were anyone else, even the 9-star War King, they would be panicking. They probably wouldn't even have the courage to face He Yuan. But Qin Feiyang and Wolf King were different. When they were still warriors, they had already taken care of the Black Wind stronghold, which had 2 martial masters. Later on, he challenged the Black Bear City's city lord. Later on, he even challenged Xuan, the Danwang Halavian city, and the royal family. And the royal family of Pan County. The Merfolk clan's war master-level elders. There were also the Lu family, Wang family, Zheng family, and so on. It could be said that they had been struggling in adversity all this time. If it were anyone else, they would have already broken down and given up. But they didn't. They grew up step by step and rose up step by step. Moreover, they had tempered their steel-like willpower and fearless spirit. Even if they were facing a war master, they could do it without fear. What's more, it was just a 1-star war emperor. The pressure enveloped Qin Feiyang and Wolf King, and they were both imprisoned. But when he saw that the man and the wolf were not panicking at all, and were even whispering to each other, He Yuan immediately burned with anger. Die. He pointed his index finger in the air. A dazzling battle chi, like a graceful swan, streaked across the sky with astonishing destructive power. It arrived in an instant. Boom. Accompanied by a deafening sound, a deep pit suddenly appeared in this place. Cracks spread out in all directions with the deep pit as the center. Billowing dust and smoke covered the sky. The people who were originally rushing towards Qin Feiyang and Wolf King were also sent flying, blood spurting out wildly. But they didn't have the slightest intention of blaming He Yuan. Only joy on their faces. They're finally dead. Humph, those who dare to go against our He clan, none of them have a good ending. The spectators in the distance also sneered. He Yuan waved his hand, and a gust of wind blew, blowing away the dust. Other than that deep pit, nothing else could be found. Looks like they've already been smashed to pieces. Definitely. Our leader is a war emperor. If he uses all his strength, with their little strength, there will definitely be no bones left. I still wanted to torture them, but it seems like there's no chance. Many people revealed disappointment. If they died like this, it would be too easy for them. Quickly go and fill the pit. He Yuan also smiled contemptuously, and after giving some instructions to the clansmen below, he turned around and flew away. About 10 breaths later, suddenly, a man and a wolf appeared in the deep pit. Those who were about to fill the pit couldn't help but be stunned. Not dead? How was this possible? Ew. Wolf King howled and rushed out of the deep pit like an arrow. It was as if a death god had descended, crazily slaughtering. For a moment, this place was filled with wails. Broken corpses and broken limbs were flying everywhere. Blood dyed the void and earth red. Previously, On the eve of the battle, Qin Feiyang and Wolf King went to the castle. However, the timing was very good. So much so that even He Yuan didn't see them disappear, and thought they were already dead. Leader, they're not dead. Save us. Wolf King killed crazily. To the point that the He clan's clansmen were scared out of their wits. To the point that they were like chickens and dogs, fleeing in panic. What? They're actually not dead. Hearing the cry for help, He Yuan's eyes widened in anger, turned in the air, and rushed towards the gate with monstrous anger. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also rushed out of the deep pit, casually dealt with a middle-aged man who was rushing towards him, and then scanned the He clan. Finally, he locked onto He Yuan's residence and his eyes flashed. Just wait to regret it. Qin Feiyang laughed coldly, opened a teleportation gate, and shouted, "White-eyed wolf, He Yuan is here, let's go." With that he walked in. Wolf King took care of 3 more people, and also ran into the teleportation gate. The teleportation gate quickly dissipated. At this time, He Yuan finally rushed over. Seeing the corpses all over the ground, he roared, "Where are they?" Qin Feiyang opened a teleportation gate. "We don't know where they went. Leader, you must kill them and avenge the dead clansmen." Those who were lucky enough to survive all roared in grief and indignation. Damn it. He Yuan roared in exasperation and rushed into the sky, overlooking the entire tribe. However, there was no trace of Qin Feiyang and Wolf King at all. "Get the hell out of here." He roared again and again, mad with anger. However, he didn't know that a man and a wolf had already entered his residence. In the hall, when the 2 maids saw Qin Feiyang and Wolf King come in, they curled up beside the chair, their faces pale and shivering. Chapter 354. Really? The 2 maids looked at him with trepidation. "I've always been a man of my word." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Tell me, where is the treasure house?" The treasure house. The 2 maids were shocked. This man was actually thinking about the treasure house. "I don't know. We're just nobodies. The leader won't tell us such an important place." The 2 maids shook their heads in horror. "Little Qinzi doesn't kill women easily. No, I won't kill you on behalf of my cousin. If you don't tell me the truth, I'll eat you." The Wolf King took a step forward and bared its fangs. Its bell-sized eyes flashed with a frightening light. "It's behind that wall. The mechanism is in that painting." The 2 maids were so frightened that they pointed to the wall behind them without thinking and blurted out, "That's good." Wolf King chuckled. The man and the wolf looked up and saw a landscape painting hanging on the wall. It was 3 meters long and 1 meter wide. They walked quickly up to the painting. The 2 maids also collapsed on the ground, their faces pale. How can there be a mechanism in the painting? Wolf King looked up and down at the painting, puzzled. Qin Feiyang was stunned and speechless. "Why did your IQ suddenly become so low? Who are you talking about? Your butt is itching again, isn't it?" Wolf King glared at him angrily. Didn't the 2 maids say it clearly? The mechanism was in the painting. Stupid. Qin Feiyang shook his head, reached out, grabbed the landscape painting and pulled it down. Immediately, a secret compartment was revealed. The size of the secret compartment was almost the same as a wash basin. There was a bright-colored jade in it, which was about the size of a palm. So that's how it is. Wolf King suddenly understood, and then couldn't help but become angry. He didn't even think of this. He really ruined his reputation. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He grabbed the jade again and turned it hard. Crack! The wall in front of him split open and automatically moved to the sides. Very soon, a secret chamber appeared in front of the man and the wolf. The secret chamber was more than 10 meters wide. There was a stone platform in the center, and more than 10 cosmos bags were neatly placed on it. "Looks like you've saved up quite a bit." Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up and he was about to walk in. However, Wolf King suddenly stretched out his paw and stopped him. He transmitted his voice. "There's someone inside." "Someone's there?" Qin Feiyang frowned. He scanned the empty chamber. Where was there anyone? But suddenly, he looked at the stone platform. The stone platform was 1 meter tall and 2 meters wide. If there really was someone, they must be hiding behind the stone platform. Qin Feiyang secretly took out the Chang Shui and hid it in his sleeve. He used telepathy to say, "Pretend you don't know." Wolf King nodded. There are actually so many Qiankuan bags. We've struck it rich this time. It shouted excitedly and ran towards the stone platform. Qin Feiyang also ran in. A man and a wolf came to the stone platform. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and grabbed the Qiankuan bag. Boom. Sure enough, at this moment, a skinny white-haired old man jumped out from behind the stone platform and slapped at Qin Feiyang with lightning speed. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth. The hand that was reaching for the Qiankuan bag suddenly moved up and collided with the white-haired old man's palm. The return formula reappeared. The two of them retreated at the same time. Their arms were bleeding. But at the same time, Wolf King pounced. It opened its mouth wide, revealing white fangs. Its current size was 5 or 6 meters long. When it opened its mouth, it was enough to swallow the whole person. It bit the white-haired old man's head, and its fangs were as sharp as blades. In just an instant, it bit off the white-haired old man's head. Blood spurted out from the bowl-sized wound. The white-haired old man didn't even have time to scream before he breathed his last. Bah! Wolf King landed on the ground and immediately spat out his head. He swung his tongue and cursed. It stinks. How long has it been since I washed my hair? It's disgusting. Qin Feiyang took a healing pill and put away the Qiankuan bag on the stone platform. He looked at the headless body of the white-haired old man with lingering fear. If he hadn't noticed it in advance, he and Wolf King would have died without a doubt. Because this person was the 9-star Battle King. Fortunately, Wolf King's nose was sharp enough, and he was lucky enough to escape death. Wolf King chuckled and said, "Little Qinzi, I saved your life again." Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Let's record it first." "You can record this?" Wolf King was stunned. "Let's go." Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He turned around and walked out of the secret room, glancing at the hall. The two mates had actually disappeared. "Leader, they're inside." At this moment, the voices of the two mates sounded outside the door. Whoosh. Following closely, a black figure rushed into the hall. Who else could it be but He Yuan? "Retreat!" Qin Feiyang shouted. He rushed to the wall on the left and punched a hole in it. Then he and the Wolf King ran in one after the other. He Yuan didn't chase after them and rushed straight into the secret room. Seeing the empty stone platform and the white-haired old man's body, his old face suddenly turned ashen. Qin Feiyang and Wolf King were also surrounded at this moment. They were surrounded by people from the He clan. There were more than 80 people, surrounding them so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak out. Those pairs of sinister eyes seemed to want to pull out the tendons, pull out the bones, and crush the man and wolf into ashes. "What do you want? Don't think that I'm afraid of you just because you have more people. If you have the guts, let's fight one-on-one." Wolf King shouted timidly. "Who has the mood to fight one-on-one with you? So what if we bully you because we have more people? Activate your fighting souls." Boom! Powerful auras burst out one after another. One by one, fighting souls rose into the air. There were beast fighting souls, weapon fighting souls, and some rare plant fighting souls. In the blink of an eye, there were more than 60 fighting souls. This was incredible. This was because not everyone was able to awaken a battle spirit after breaking through to the Battle Emperor realm. The success rate was only half. Judging from the current situation, 2/3 of the Battle Kings of the He clan had activated their fighting souls. This probability was very rare. However, in front of Wolf King, without absolute strength, it didn't matter how many fighting souls there were. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Wolf King shrunk his head, feeling a little guilty. "Don't talk nonsense with it. Kill." Everyone roared in unison. The sound of killing shook the sky. The 60 over battle souls charged towards the man and the wolf in unison. The aura of a single fighting soul was not strong. But when all the fighting souls were combined, the vast momentum made even Qin Feiyang's expression change. The killing intent soared into the sky. "Hey, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Little guy, I'll let you see how powerful I am." Wolf King's eyes were full of disdain, and his previous timidity was swept away. Boom! A shocking aura burst out from his body. A huge golden beast shadow appeared out of thin air, as if the king of all beasts had descended, shaking the entire area. Deprive. Following Wolf King's long roar, the 60 fighting souls flew uncontrollably towards the golden beast shadow. In the blink of an eye, those fighting souls were swallowed by the golden beast shadow in one gulp. What? There's actually such a thing. Oh no, I can't activate my fighting soul. Me too. What's going on? The place was suddenly in chaos. Everyone's face was full of shock and disbelief. This was too ridiculous. How could the fighting souls disappear? I, He Yuan, swear that if I don't kill you, I'm not human. At this moment, an angry roar came out from the secret room. Qin Feiyang's expression changed as he shouted to Wolf King, "Hurry up and kill our way out." Oh. Wolf King raised his head and howled, his ferocious might unparalleled. One man and one wolf were like two human-shaped Tyrannosaurus Rex, crazily slaughtering their way out. Boom. The wooden building behind them shattered into pieces with an earth-shattering sound. He Yuan rushed out from the ruins. His eyes were bloodshot. Seeing that the man and the wolf were about to break out of the encirclement, He Yuan shouted, "They killed the high priest and stole all our savings. Quickly stop them." What? The high priest was in seclusion in the secret room, and was about to break through to the one-star war emperor. He was actually killed by them? How preposterous. Not only did they strip us of our fighting souls, they also stole our treasures. Even if I have to risk my life, I can't let you escape. Kill. Everyone went crazy. One after another, they pounced on the man and the wolf without caring about their lives. At the same time, He Yuan also rushed towards the man and the wolf, his entire body shrouded in a murderous aura. Not good. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. He grabbed Wolf King and entered the castle without hesitation, temporarily avoiding the danger. Wolf King turned into the size of a palm, and jumped onto the iron box that contained the 6-word divine arts. He said with joy, "Hee, it seems that we have really driven them crazy." Qin Feiyang let out a long breath and laughed. "Let's rest first, wait for Fatso to send us a message." Wolf King said, "Have you forgotten? The image crystal can't be sent here." "That's right." Qin Feiyang frowned. "That's not right. We can't send a message to Yan Nanshan and Ren Wushuang because they aren't in the Forgotten Land. But Fatso and we are both here. Logically speaking, we should be able to communicate with each other." Qin Feiyang said. Wolf King was stunned and nodded. "It seems to make sense. Why don't you give it a try?" Qin Feiyang took out the image crystal and poured his battle qi into it. In less than 3 breaths, an illusory figure appeared. It was Fatso. Can it really work? Qin Feiyang and the Wolf King stared blankly for a moment before they were overjoyed. As long as they could communicate with each other in the Forgotten Land, it would be much easier to do things in the future. Fatso was also a little surprised. However, with his brain he understood after thinking carefully. He chuckled and said, "Boss Brother Wolf, are you guys trapped and asking Master Fatty for help? You think they can trap us? You underestimate me and little Qinzi too much. But you haven't come back for so long. Are you in trouble? I knew it. Fatso is not reliable. I shouldn't have let you go." Wolf King said disdainfully. "What? Let me tell you, the treasure of the Lu tribe has been obtained. As for now, Fat Lord is teaching those disobedient people a lesson," Fatso said. Wolf King shook his head and sighed. "It turns out that you are still acting tough over there. You really haven't changed." After a pause, Wolf King said lightly, "Let me tell you a piece of good news. We also got the treasure of the He tribe." "What?" When Fatso heard this, he suddenly became excited and roared, "Wait for me, when I'm done here, I'll meet you immediately." Chapter 355. The tribe outside was in a mess. The high priest was dead. The treasures were gone. The war soul was also taken away. 40 to 50 war kings had also fallen. The overall strength of the tribe could be said to have plummeted. They searched everywhere for Qin Feiyang and Wolf King. If they didn't take revenge, they wouldn't be human. But after searching the tribe, They couldn't find any trace of the man and the wolf. Where the hell did they go? Get out here and die. Some people roared. He Yuan didn't look for them. He stood at the place where Qin Feiyang disappeared, his eyes flickering. Every time they disappeared, they would appear in the same place. This was enough to show that the man and the wolf definitely didn't leave. As long as he waited here, he should be able to find them. With that thought in mind, a strong cold light burst out from his old eyes. But after a long time he didn't see Qin Feiyang and Wolf King appear. He began to wonder if his judgment was wrong. Had the man and the wolf left long ago? His mind was in a mess. He didn't know if he should continue to wait or go somewhere else to look. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyang pricked up his ears and listened carefully to the movements outside. Wolf King asked, "How is it? Is it safe outside?" "I didn't hear anything. But I'm afraid that He Yuan will silently wait outside. After all, we've been in and out several times. Anyone with a bit of brains will be able to find some clues," Qin Feiyang said. Wolf King said, "Don't we have a teleportation gate? Can't we just teleport out?" Qin Feiyang couldn't help but be stunned. He had never tried to teleport out of the castle. However, the castle was an independent space divine object. Could it be directly teleported out? Probably not. He took out a teleportation gate and tried it. The result was that it really couldn't be teleported. Wolf King was a little disappointed, but Qin Feiyang didn't. Everything was within his expectations. Right. As if he suddenly thought of something, he turned his head to look at the Wolf King and asked, "That battle soul of yours, can it be taken away from everyone?" "Of course." Wolf King nodded and said, "But it also depends on the opponent's cultivation." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Wolf King said, "As long as they are in the same realm, I can strip them of their battle souls." Qin Feiyang was shocked and asked, "If you were a 1-star battle king now, would you still be able to seize the battle soul of a 9-star battle king?" "That's right." Wolf King nodded and added, "However, if the opponent's cultivation has surpassed the battle king realm and reached the battle emperor realm, then it won't work." "Suck." Qin Feiyang gasped. Wasn't this too heaven-defying? If Wolf King broke through to the 1-star combat emperor, wouldn't he be able to take away the fighting soul of a 9-star combat emperor? With such a terrifying ability, who would dare to go against it in the future? Wolf King smiled proudly and asked, "What are the innate abilities of your 3 war souls?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Don't you always like to keep people in suspense? I will also keep it a secret this time. TCH, it's just 3 broken war souls. What's the big deal?" Wolf King's eyes were filled with disdain. "Yes, I do have broken war souls, but I have a lot of them, 3 of them. Your war soul is awesome, but unfortunately, there is only 1. This proves that there is still a gap between you and me," Qin Feiyang joked. "I'll bite you to death." Wolf King bared his teeth and pounced towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang sent it flying with a slap. He said unhappily, "All right, stop messing around. Let me think about how to get rid of He Yuan." Although he was not afraid of He Yuan was a 1-star combat emperor and was not easy to deal with. "Got it." Suddenly, his eyes lit up. He took out an illusory form pill and threw it into his mouth, turning into a skinny old man with white hair. Wolf King was still brooding over the fact that Qin Feiyang had sent it flying, but when he saw Qin Feiyang's change, he couldn't help but be surprised. Because Qin Feiyang's current appearance was that of the He tribe's high priest. He wanted to use this identity to confuse He Yuan? Was that possible? He Yuan already knew that the high priest was dead. Now that he had turned into the high priest, if he went out and was seen by He Yuan, he would definitely be suspicious. It wouldn't work. Qin Feiyang laughed. "I'm not trying to confuse him, I'm just trying to distract him. As long as he's distracted, we'll have a chance to launch a sneak attack." At the same time, he took out Chang Shui and threw it to Wolf King, saying seriously, "I'll leave the mission of the sneak attack to you. You must kill him in 1 hit. This? Wolf King hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right, big brother, we'll fight it out with him." Qin Feiyang took out another rib and lowered his head to look at it, his eyes shining. Although this thing couldn't compare to Chang Shui, it was undeniable that it was also a treasure. It was perfect to use it as a bludgeon. Putting the rib into the leader's body, he turned to the Wolf King and asked, "Are you ready? Attack at any time." Wolf King's eyes flickered with a cold light. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly and appeared outside in an instant. He Yuan was about to lose his patience and was about to go somewhere else. But suddenly, he sensed an aura appear. "I've been waiting for you for a long time." Killing intent crawled up from his eyes, and without hesitation, he turned around and punched out. However, just as he turned around, he immediately braked and stopped, his old face instantly filled with bewilderment. High Priest? Wasn't he dead? Driven by instinct, He Yuan turned his head to look at the wooden building behind him that had already turned into ruins. He had clearly seen with his own eyes that the high priest had died in that secret room, so why did he suddenly appear again? Not good. It must be Qin Feiyang, who had disguised himself as the high priest, trying to pass himself off as a fake. He Yuan was not stupid and immediately thought of this. But just as he thought of this, Qin Feiyang quickly took out the rib. Grabbing one end with both hands, he used it as a stick and smashed it towards He Yuan's head. At the same time, with a thought, Wolf King also appeared out of thin air. Its 2 rows of steel teeth were biting Chang Shue's hilt, and the tip of the blade was pointed forward. At this moment, Wolf King was like the shaft of an arrow, and Chang Shue was like the tip of the arrow. The wolf and the dagger fused together and transformed into a bone-piercing arrow. As soon as it came out, it shot towards He Yuan's lower abdomen. In the blink of an eye, He Yuan had just turned around when the hard rib smashed into his head. Bang! Ah! At this moment, He Yuan saw stars and howled in pain. Damn it! It's really you! Go to hell! He roared and raised his hand to slap Qin Feiyang's head. If he was hit, Qin Feiyang's head would definitely explode on the spot. But at this moment, Wolf King and Chang Shui arrived. Chang Shui was invincible and easily broke through He Yuan's lower abdomen, pierced through his qi, and swept out from behind. Immediately, a palm-sized bloody hole appeared on He Yuan's lower abdomen, penetrating from front to back. A glaring stream of blood spurted out from the hole. A heart-wrenching pain suddenly swept over. What's going on? He Yuan lowered his head to look. When he saw the bloody hole, his old eyes were filled with deep disbelief. 2 mere war kings actually had the ability to break through his lower abdomen and qi? Was he dreaming? The next moment, he couldn't help but scream. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and Wolf King also retreated. While He Yuan screamed, he turned to look at Wolf King. Seeing the dagger in Wolf King's mouth, his face immediately became twisted and ferocious. Without a doubt, it was that dagger that broke through his lower abdomen and qi. But this was too unbelievable. What level of dagger was that? How could it be so terrifying? I'm going to kill you! He Yuan roared hysterically and rushed towards Wolf King. I'll go. Your qi is crippled, and you still have the strength to run. However, you're a cripple now. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Wolf King rushed towards He Yuan with disdain in his eyes. However, He Yuan didn't manage to run 2 steps before he fell to the ground with a bang. He was no longer able to get up. His consciousness was also being rapidly devoured by the darkness. Ugh! Wolf King was stunned for a moment, then ran in front of He Yuan's head and laughed. Before you die, try my holy water first. At that moment, a stream of urine sprayed out and all of it splashed on He Yuan's face. He Yuan gritted his teeth and said sternly, Bastard, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Hey, Wolf King laughed. Wait until you become a ghost. My holy water is extremely rare, have a good taste. He Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood. Bastard, can you be any more shameless? At this time, Qin Feiyang also came in front of He Yuan and said indifferently, Tell me the coordinates of the Purple Sun tribe, maybe I can save your life. Qi was crippled. As long as his heart and head were fine, he would not necessarily die. As long as he took the healing pill in time, there was still a chance to save his life. But he needed a high-level healing pill. Ordinary healing pill did not have this ability. However, even if he could save his life, he would be a cripple for the rest of his life, and would not be able to continue cultivating. because there was no way to repair a broken qi. Can you save your life? He Yuan was stunned and said with a grim smile. If you can't cultivate, living will only be more painful. I won't tell you, you can take your time to find it. Is that so? Qin Feiyang took out a top-grade healing pill with 2 elixir veins and stuffed it into He Yuan's mouth. The bloody hole in his lower abdomen immediately healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Qin Feiyang sneered. Now it's not that easy for you to die even if you want to. If you are willing to tell me, I will give you a quick death. What kind of healing pill is this? The effect is actually so strong. He Yuan's face was full of disbelief. Qin Feiyang lost his patience and shouted. Are you going to tell me or not? He Yuan laughed sinisterly. I won't tell you even if you kill me. If you have any means, just come at me. Qin Feiyang's face turned cold, got up and grabbed Chang Shui, and said to Wolf King. Torture him until he tells you. It's a piece of cake. The Wolf King laughed mischievously and immediately attacked, using everything he had. Immediately, He Yuan's blood-curdling screams resounded in this place. Let go of the leader. At this time, a large group of people rushed over aggressively. They were all War King. Whoever dares to move, I'll kill them. Qin Feiyang turned his head and swept his gaze over them. That bone-chilling gaze caused their bodies and minds to tremble. Chapter 356. Their hearts were filled with fear, but more than that, they were in disbelief. They were already very shocked when they killed the high priest. But they never thought that even their leader would fall at their hands. Their leader was a genuine war emperor. The methods of this man and wolf were too heaven-defying. Wang. At this moment, Qin Feiyang's image crystal moved. It was a message from Fatso. He asked Qin Feiyang for the coordinates. When Qin Feiyang told Fatso the coordinates, in less than 3 breaths, Fatso and the pangolin appeared beside him out of thin air. Not bad. Even this old thing was crippled by you. Amazing. Fatty and the pangolin couldn't help but laugh strangely when they saw He Yuan lying on the ground being tortured by the Wolf King. Qin Feiyang asked, how's the situation at the Lu tribe? Fatso sneered. Even the War King has been killed by us. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, let's go and help. That's what I was thinking. The fatty grinned evilly as he rubbed his fists and walked towards He Yuan. The pangolin rolled its eyes and jumped onto Qin Feiyang's shoulder, saying, there's no good bird around you. You're not a good bird either. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. The pangolin said angrily, don't talk nonsense. This king is a gentleman. These 2 idiots can't be compared to this king. Qin Feiyang's face twitched as he cursed, shameless. Wolf King and Fatso were already narcissistic enough, but this guy was even more narcissistic than them. With Fatso's addition, He Yuan's screams became even more miserable. He even wanted to bite his tongue and commit suicide, but Wolf King didn't give him the chance at all. It's not that easy to die. Once, there were 2 idiots like you who came to provoke us recklessly. In the end, you were tortured by me for 2 to 3 days. That feeling was really satisfying. Wolf King chuckled. The 2 people it was talking about were Wang Fei and Zheng Chuan, who were plotting against Lu Hong. 2 or 3 days. The moment He Yuan heard, he could not help feeling chills all over his body. He hurriedly said, you all quickly stop. I'll talk, I'll tell everything. Then say it. Fatso shouted. He Yuan said, Ziyang tribe is too far away from here. I don't know the coordinates. Wolf King said angrily. If you don't know, then why are you still pretending? He Yuan hurriedly said, although I don't know, I know of a place where someone definitely knows the coordinates of Ziyang tribe. Stop. Qin Feiyang said. Wolf King's paw landed on He Yuan's crotch. Roar. He Yuan immediately let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. Fatso also kicked him a few times, and then retreated to the side with Wolf King. Qin Feiyang said, hurry up and tell me, where is it? He Yuan endured the pain and said, White Fox City. Qin Feiyang said, be more specific. He Yuan said, White Fox City is the only city within 1,000 miles, and the city lord is a 2-star war emperor. Next, he told Qin Feiyang about the situation and the coordinates of White Fox City. After listening, Qin Feiyang looked at Fatso and said, "Give him a quick death." Fatso took a step forward and ended He Yuan's life. "Leader!" The surrounding He tribe members all cried out in grief. "Let me give you a piece of advice. If you don't want to follow in the footsteps of the Lu tribe, then behave yourself." Qin Feiyang opened a teleportation gate and brought Fatso, Wolf King, and the pangolin beast in, leaving behind a bone-chilling sentence. White Fox City. This was an ancient city with a very long history. But it wasn't big, about the same size as the Black Bear City. With Qin Feiyang's cultivation, it would only take a few hundred breaths of time to cross White Fox City. There was a dense forest outside the city. The dense forest was covered in snow, and a few figures appeared out of thin air beside a big tree. It was Qin Feiyang and his group. There were a few fierce beasts hunting nearby. When they saw them, they pounced forward. Scram! Wolf King roared, and a terrifying might pressed down. The ferocious beasts immediately fled. Qin Feiyang looked around, then looked at Fatso and said, "There's nothing much to do now. You go to the castle first and sort out these Qianquan bag." He took out the dozen or so Qianquan bag. Fatso grabbed it in his hand, his eyes shining with green light. Although the He tribe only had one war emperor, it was still the He tribe's many years of savings, so there must be a lot of valuable treasures. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent Fatso into the castle. The pangolin looked at Wolf King sneakily and said, "Let me in too. Don't even think about it. Grow up immediately and take me and little Qinzi into the city." Wolf King shouted, "What? I'm a beast king, and you want me to be your mount? I'm telling you, don't go too far." The pangolin said angrily. Wolf King joked, "What, you're not convinced? Come on, let's compete." "Okay, you're awesome." The pangolin glared at him fiercely. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. It changed back to its true form. Its 5 or 6 meters long body exuded an astonishing ferocious aura. "This." Qin Feiyang hesitated for a moment, then jumped onto the pangolin's back. Wolf King stood on top of the pangolin's head, waved his claws in front of him, and shouted in high spirits, "Let's go. You can be proud of yourself. Sooner or later, I'll teach you a lesson." The pangolin snorted coldly and ran out of the dense forest with heavy steps, making loud thumping sounds. The ground was shaking, and it left footprints that were 1 foot deep. The snow on the surrounding trees fell in patches. Wherever it passed, the ferocious beasts it encountered fled in panic like birds startled by the twang of a bow. What's going on? Why is there such a big commotion? Is it a beast tide? The people hunting in the forest also turned pale with fright. Wolf King shouted, "Be quiet. Are you afraid that others won't know we're here?" The pangolin said angrily, "Can you not ask for so much? How dare you talk back?" Wolf King was furious. He slapped its head with his claws, and the pangolin jumped in pain. The commotion became louder. "It must be a beast tide. Let's go and take a look." One figure after another rushed over from all directions. Sensing those auras, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but frown. Then, he jumped down and landed on the ground saying, "Both of you go and stay on my shoulder." The pangolin was as if it had been granted amnesty. It instantly turned into the size of a palm, and landed on Qin Feiyang's left shoulder. "Bastard, I told you to do it on purpose." Wolf King angrily jumped up and slapped the pangolin flying with a claw. It crashed into a big tree and its body was about to fall apart. It got up in a sorry state and looked at Wolf King angrily. "If you continue like this king will become angry. If you have the guts, then come. A little follower should have the awareness of a little follower. If you dare to do this again, I will directly cripple you." Wolf King coldly snorted. "I'll endure it." The pangolin took a deep breath, walked in front of Qin Feiyang, and jumped onto his right shoulder. Qin Feiyang frowned. It seemed that he couldn't let these two little fellows stay together too often. Otherwise, they would fight sooner or later. Whoosh! At this moment, a few middle-aged men took the lead and arrived at this place. They glanced at Qin Feiyang, and then looked elsewhere. One of them asked, "Kid, what was that commotion just now?" More and more people came, all of their faces full of surprise. "I don't know either." Qin Feiyang shrugged his shoulders and strode away. Stop. A young man around 25 or 26 years old wearing a leopard skin suddenly shouted. What's the matter? Qin Feiyang stopped and turned to look at the young man in leopard skin. The young man in leopard skin walked to a footprint left by the pangolin. After carefully observing it for a moment, he gradually frowned. He raised his head to look at the other footprints, and then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, You said you don't know, then what's going on with these footprints? How would I know? Besides, what does it have to do with me? After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he turned around and continued to walk forward. The young man in leopard skin shouted, If you don't explain it clearly, you can't leave. Whoosh. Immediately, more than 10 people blocked Qin Feiyang's path. These people were men and women, all of them middle-aged. Their bodies were stained with blood, and the smell of blood was pungent. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and said, I'm curious, why are you blocking me? Because the commotion just now came from you. Our prey was scared away by the commotion. You happen to be here. Who else should we look for if not you? Tell us, is it related to you? The people around shouted. The young man in leopard skin suddenly noticed the pangolin on Qin Feiyang's shoulder, and his eyes flashed. He looked at Qin Feiyang again and sneered. Don't ask everyone. The commotion just now was caused by the small beast on his shoulder. Hey, why is it so small? Did they all take the transformation pill? Everyone looked at it, and they were very surprised. The transformation pill was very expensive, and there were not many in White Fox City who could afford it. And this person was a stranger. He should be someone from somewhere else. Wasn't this a good opportunity to blackmail? An old woman in a green robe walked out and said in a hoarse voice. Although the pangolin is small, the shape of its hooves and footprints are exactly the same. It must be them. Hooves. The pangolin was already full of anger, and when it heard the word, it was furious and shouted, Old witch, I dare you to say that again. Hey, it can speak. Everyone was stunned. The value of the bottleneck breaking pill was almost on par with the transformation pill. This young man must be a rich man. The old woman in the green robe's eyes flashed coldly. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Boy, what's your name, and where are you from? Before blackmailing, he had to find out the other party's identity. Otherwise, it would be bad luck if he ran into an iron plate. Qin Feiyang frowned. It seemed that today was not going to be kind. He glared at the pangolin and Wolf King fiercely. If it weren't for these two bastards, he wouldn't have encountered such trouble. After a moment of silence, Qin Feiyang said, I'm from the Purple Sun Tribe. What? The Purple Sun Tribe. The surrounding people were shocked. Everyone, don't be fooled by him. He's not from the Purple Sun Tribe. Because the Purple Sun Tribe is too far from here. It's impossible to come here without a few years. The young man in leopard skin sneered with a trace of mockery in his eyes. Qin Feiyang turned to look at the young man in leopard skin and said indifferently, Don't you know that there's something called the teleportation gate? What's wrong with this person? He kept getting in the way. Did he have a grudge against him? Chapter 357. The young man in leopard skin said, Stop quibbling. You're not from the Z Sun tribe at all. Qin Feiyang said, How can you be so sure? The young man in leopard skin sneered. Of course I'm sure. You can fool others, but you can't fool me. Qin Feiyang frowned. That's not right. Why did he feel that this person knew him very well? Could he be from the He tribe or the Lu tribe? The old woman in green robe said, Since Ding Ming said no, then he's definitely not from the Z Sun tribe. Ding Ming? Qin Feiyang was stunned. It seemed that this person was not from the He tribe or the Lu tribe. Kid, you actually dare to bluff us. You've got guts. We won't make things difficult for you. 1 million gold coins each. Hand over the gold coins and we'll let you go. But if you don't hand it over, don't even think about walking out of this forest alive. Everyone's eyes were cold. 1 million? Qin Feiyang was stunned and glanced at them one by one. There were about 50 people around him. 1 million per person was only 50 million. To him, 50 million was just a drop in the ocean. However, man's greed knows no bounds. If he really gave it to them now, these people would definitely demand an exorbitant price. Putting all this aside, at present, no one could take half a gold coin from him, unless he was willing. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly and said, "White-eyed wolf pangolin, go test their strength." "I've been waiting for you to say that." The two beasts rushed out from his shoulders at the same time. Boom! Their small bodies expanded in the wind and instantly changed back to their true forms. They were both 5 to 6 meters long and had white fangs that shone with a shocking cold light. So big. Their aura is also very strong. The 50 people were shocked. "What are you afraid of? We have so many people. Do you believe that we can't kill them?" Ding Ming shouted. "That's right. If you want to make a fortune, you have to be willing to risk your life. No one will give it to you. Everyone come with me." The old woman in green robe roared and her aura exploded. She took the lead and rushed toward the Wolf King and Pangolin. She was a 5-star battle king. The others also unleashed their auras and pounced towards them. For a moment, the place was filled with snowflakes. "Brother Wolf, I'll leave that old witch to you." Seeing this, the pangolin turned around and charged at the others. The green-robed old woman was a 5-star battle king, while it was a 4-star battle king. Although there was only a difference of 1 level between them, it was very likely that the green-robed old woman still had more battle arts. Therefore, it wisely chose to leave this heavyweight opponent to Wolf King to deal with. However, it specifically targeted those who were weaker than it. Useless. Wolf King glared at it in disdain and instantly activated Berserk Rage. The bird that sticks out gets shot. Haven't you heard of that? Apart from the young man in leopard skin, this old witch was the most arrogant one. Wolf King naturally wouldn't show mercy to such a person. It rushed in front of the green-robed old woman and waved its claws. Ah! Before the green-robed old woman could react, she was sent flying with a shrill scream. What a strong force! It has a battle art. The green-robed old woman's face was full of regret. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have used her brain. She flew more than 30 meters away and smashed into a huge stone door the size of a house. She spat out a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. As for the boulder, it also shattered into pieces. What? A 5-star battle king was killed in an instant. Everyone was shocked by this scene. Everyone looked at the Wolf King, their eyes filled with unresolvable fear. "I'll kill it." At this moment, a burly man dressed in tiger skin jumped out and walked towards the Wolf King with a bold and decisive manner. His aura was very strong. He was a 6-star battle king, and also the strongest among these people. Frost Arrow. When he was 5 meters away from Wolf King, the burly man in tiger skin waved his fan-like hand, and the surrounding snow rose into the air. In the blink of an eye, numerous ice arrows were formed in front of him. It was densely packed in a large area. They flickered with an astonishing sharpness. "Die, you bastard!" As the burly man in tiger skin roared, the frost arrows pierced through the air and shot toward Wolf King. There are so many people who aren't afraid of death. Wolf King grinned and rushed forward, his 2 claws dancing wildly. Crack! Those seemingly sturdy frost arrows shattered like dead wood. This is so strong. The burly man in tiger skin's expression suddenly changed, and his eyes were filled with fear. However, when the last frost arrow shattered, his entire body and mind were drowned in fear. Plop! He collapsed weakly on the snowy ground. He didn't even have the courage to continue fighting. His eyes were filled with despair. "Aren't you very powerful? Want to kill me? Come get up. How dare you be so arrogant with your little strength?" Wolf King stood in front of him. His bell-like eyes were filled with disdain. The burly man in tiger skin quivered and begged, "Lord Wolf, please spare my life." But before he could finish speaking, the Wolf King swung its paw back and smashed his head into pieces. Even he is dead. How strong is that wolf? The others were scared out of their wits. They didn't have the desire to continue fighting. At the same time, the young man in leopard skin also looked at Wolf King and frowned. "He's so strong? It seems that we can't get rid of them today." He muttered to himself and glanced at Qin Feiyang. Then he quietly retreated into the forest behind him. However, He didn't know that although Qin Feiyang was scanning the battlefield, he had been paying attention to him. So Qin Feiyang noticed him immediately. Qin Feiyang said telepathically, "White-eyed wolf, pangolin, hurry up, don't leave a single one alive." Understood. The Wolf King responded and charged at the others like a ferocious beast. Corpses fell down one after another. Blood splattered everywhere. The snow here was dyed red, and the smell of blood was pungent. Soon there were only a dozen people left. The pangolin's methods were also extremely cruel. Those who were killed by it didn't have an intact corpse. There were even a few people who were trampled into meat paste by its foot. Were no match for them. Run. The dozen or so people who were still alive were scared out of their wits and fled in panic. However, there were also a few people who were relatively calm. Let's go and capture that kid. As long as we capture him, no matter how strong those two beasts are, they won't be able to cause any trouble. I have the same idea. He looks like he's only 17 or 18 years old. He's definitely not strong. Let's go. The two middle-aged men acted in unison and rushed towards Qin Feiyang. Both of them were 3-star battle kings. Moreover, they both had low-grade martial skills and were quite strong. But obviously, they had bumped into an iron plate this time. Qin Feiyang raised the corner of his mouth and turned to look at the two men. "Kid, if you want to live, then obediently submit to capture." The two men sneered and reached out their hands to grab Qin Feiyang's arm. They didn't even use their battle chi. It could be said that they were looking down on him. "You'll have to pay the price for looking down on others," Qin Feiyang muttered. His gaze suddenly turned cold. He stretched out his hands and clenched them into fists. Battle chi covered his fists and he fiercely punched the two men's lower abdomens. Ah! The two men screamed and were instantly sent flying, crashing into the snow. How could this be? Even he was so strong? The two men were in deep disbelief. Their heads tilted and they died on the spot. At the same time, Wolf King and the pangolin were also dealt with by those who were escaping. The ground was littered with broken corpses and severed limbs. Blood dyed the ground red for hundreds of meters. This place was like an Azura hell. It was terrifying. Wolf King and the pangolin were also dripping with blood. They were like two killing gods with monstrous ferocity. Wolf King ran over and said proudly, "Little Qinzi, you're quite efficient, aren't you?" The pangolin said disdainfully, "TCH, I just killed a few hypocritical humans. What's there to show off?" Wolf King glared and said angrily, "Are you fucking looking for a beating? I'm a well-mannered and cultured pangolin. I won't bicker with a shameless person like you." The pangolin shook its head and turned into the size of a palm. It quickly jumped onto Qin Feiyang's shoulder. Well-mannered and cultured? Wolf King was stunned when he heard this. When he came back to his senses, he was furious. This bro has a bad temper. If I don't beat you to death today, I'll walk backwards in the future. It also turned into the size of a palm. With raging anger, it slapped at the pangolin with its claws. However, Qin Feiyang reached out and grabbed Wolf King. He frowned and said, "Stop fooling around. There's still one more person to be dealt with." Who? Wolf King and the pangolin looked around in surprise. But they didn't see anyone. "What are you looking for?" "I'm talking about that person called Ding Ming. He's really rotten wood." Qin Feiyang was helpless. "Ding Ming? Why didn't you kill him?" The two beasts looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. "I feel that he seems to know me very well, so he didn't do anything. I'd like to see who he is." Qin Feiyang turned around and looked behind the forest. Ding Ming had already disappeared. However, he left a complete footprint on the snow. The two beasts stayed on Qin Feiyang's shoulder. Qin Feiyang followed the footprints and chased all the way. 100 breaths later, he finally saw Ding Ming in front of him. But he didn't make a sound and just hung behind silently. But in the end, Ding Ming didn't want to go anywhere else. Instead, he took a big detour, ran out of the dense forest, and rushed toward a city in front of him. That was White Fox City. The ancient city wall was more than 10 meters high and covered with snow. The buildings in the city were also covered with a thick layer of snow. At a glance, it was all snow white. Wolf King suddenly asked, "Little Qinzi, is there any place in the Great Qin Empire where it snows all year round?" Qin Feiyang said, There must be, and there are a lot of them. Wolf King said. Is it possible that the Forgotten Land is one of those places? I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. He dared to say other things, but he really didn't dare to be sure about this. Wolf King pondered for a moment and said, Have you thought about a problem? How can we go back? Yes, that old witch didn't tell us how to go back. Are we going to be trapped here for the rest of our lives? The pangolin said in surprise. It's useless to worry now. That old woman sent us here. She must have a way to go back. Let's wait until we find the flame of heavenly thunder. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Although he was talking to Wolf King and the others, his eyes were always on Ding Ming. Chapter 358. At the gate of the city, two burly men stood straight like javelins. They were both wearing a trench coat made of the fur of a black panther. They looked very impressive. The Wolf King sighed. The ferocious beasts living here are really miserable. Yes. Along the way, all the humans we met, no matter strong or weak, were wearing animal fur coats. If this continues, the beasts of the Forgotten Zone will be extinct sooner or later. The pangolin said, somewhat indignant. Why could humans kill beasts wantonly like this? Qin Feiyang laughed. Extinction is a bit too serious. A beast fur coat can be worn for many years. The pangolin said, Then you should also get one. There are ready-made ones here. Where is there ready-made ones? Why didn't I see them? Wolf King looked around suspiciously. The pangolin chuckled. Isn't it on your body? Wolf King was stunned, and suddenly his eyes revealed a fierce light, looking at the pangolin unkindly. The pangolin shrank his neck and hurriedly said, A gentleman uses his mouth, not his fists. Wolf King smirked. I like to be a villain, so what? The two little guys began to pinch each other again. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel a headache and said angrily, Can you give me some peace and quiet? Seeing Qin Feiyang angry, Wolf King and the pangolin immediately became obedient. But they still stared at each other. Stop. Just as Qin Feiyang was about to enter the city, the two city guards looked at him, raised their eyebrows and blocked in front of Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked doubtfully, What's the matter, two big brothers? Were you the ones who killed people in the dense forest over there? One of the burly men asked. He had a black mole the size of a pellet on the left side of his face. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. When Ding Ming entered the city just now, he didn't greet these two people. He hadn't even spoken a single word, so how did these two know? The mole man said, Don't try to quibble. When you were killing people, someone saw it with their own eyes from afar. So there are still fish that escaped the net. Qin Feiyang mumbled and said with a smile, Two big brothers, we were also forced to kill them. Is that so? The two of them sneered. Yeah, they joined hands to blackmail me. What can I do? Qin Feiyang looked helpless. They were indeed in the wrong to extort you. However, you shouldn't have killed them all. Do you know what kind of impact your actions will have on White Fox City? The two of them shouted. Wolf King said telepathically, Little Qinzi, hurry up. Ding Ming is about to disappear. Qin Feiyang looked at the streets of the city. Ding Ming had reached a crossroad and was walking to the right. What are you looking at? Do you think we don't exist? The two burly men said angrily. They were very unhappy with the feeling of being ignored. The pangolin said telepathically, Damn it, they are simply courting death. Don't be impulsive. These two just want some benefits. Problems that can be solved with money are not problems. Qin Feiyang secretly sneered. He took out 200 gold coins and handed them to the two men, saying with a smile, This is a small gift from me. The two men's eyes lit up, but when they glanced at the 200 gold coins, they frowned again. That's all? Are you trying to dismiss beggars? The two men sneered. Oh, are you not satisfied? Wolf King's eyes flashed fiercely. Qin Feiyang also raised his eyebrows and said, I'm alone and don't have much savings. Please don't mind. Is that so? Then show me your cosmos bag. The burly man with moles stretched out his hand in front of Qin Feiyang and looked at Qin Feiyang arrogantly. You want to search my cosmos bag? The smile on Qin Feiyang's face was instantly replaced by frost. You really don't want face. Do you still want it or not? He casually tossed 200 gold coins to the two of them, then turned around and walked into the city. What? How dare you be so arrogant here? The people coming in and out all looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. The two burly men's faces were also livid. Although their strength was not very good, they had support. After guarding the city gate for so long, no one had ever dared to say a word to them loudly, not to mention throwing gold coins at them and humiliating them. Stop right there. The two men shouted at the same time. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear. I told you to stop. Didn't you hear me? The burly man with moles rushed behind Qin Feiyang in anger and immediately slapped him. However, Qin Feiyang was indifferent, as if he did not notice. The slap was about to land on his head. At this moment, the Wolf King waved its little paw and slapped the burly man's wrist, directly slapping the man's hand away. You still dare to fight back? The burly man with moles was furious. Battle Chi appeared in his palm, and he slapped toward the Wolf King. One-star Battle King? The Wolf King was stunned, and his eyes were filled with sarcasm. Why were there so many people who didn't know what was good for them? Boom. It waved its paw. The golden Battle Chi rolled out like a torrent. Ah! The burly man with moles screamed, and was sent flying on the spot. In just an instant, his skin and flesh were lacerated and he was dripping with blood. With a bang, he hit the city wall and then fell to the ground, unable to get up. It actually hurt the city guards? The surrounding crowd was dumbfounded. The other city guard stood at the city gate and saw this scene. His mouth was wide open and he was filled with disbelief. Take the 200 gold coins as money to buy healing pills for you, Qin Feiyang said without turning his head and rushed toward the crossroad. Throughout the whole process, he did not even turn back to look at the two guards. The guard at the city gate ran to the burly man with moles and asked, Are you okay? It's nothing serious. The burly man with moles shook his head. He climbed up in a sorry state and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang's back. His eyes flashed with a terrifying murderous light. You stay here and watch. I'll go find the captain and let him suffer a fate worse than death. After the burly man with moles said this, he dragged his heavily injured body and quickly disappeared into the crowd. At this moment, Qin Feiyang also came to the center of the crossroad and turned to look at the street on the right. The streets were crowded with people and carriages, but Ding Ming was nowhere to be found. The pangolin said angrily, Those two guards are really in the way. Hey! Wolf King laughed and said, Don't you claim to be a gentleman? Why are you still scolding people? The pangolin snorted coldly. A gentleman also has times when he gets angry. Forget it, with your shameless character. You won't understand even if I tell you. Wolf King said disdainfully, I don't understand, but as long as I'm here, Ding Ming can't run away. The pangolin was stunned and said, That's right, your nose is more sensitive than a dog's. You're courting death. Wolf King was angry. What he hated most was people comparing his neck with a dog's nose. He jumped up and landed in front of the pangolin like lightning, and directly slapped the pangolin away with his paw. Ruffian wolf, this king and you are irreconcilable. The pangolin roared again and again, startling everyone on the street. They all looked at it. A beast that could talk? Everyone surrounded it in surprise. This is what happens when you talk dirty. Wolf King snorted and clapped his paws. Qin Feiyang pushed the crowd and walked in front of the pangolin. He said helplessly, Can you guys stop? The pangolin said angrily, It's not my fault, you should scold ruffian wolf. What did you say? Wolf King's eyes flashed fiercely. These few times, it was the pangolin who started the trouble first, and now it was blaming it? Enough. You're all my masters. Masters, can you give me some face? Qin Feiyang's face was filled with anger. He really wanted to slap them. The pangolin smiled embarrassedly. It did not dare to be this fierce person's master. Although it had not known Qin Feiyang for long, it already knew his character. Although he looked very easy to talk to now, if he really got angry, it would definitely not end well. As a person, one had to know how to observe people's expressions. As a beast, it had to know when to stop. It jumped onto Qin Feiyang's right shoulder and lay there obediently, like an obedient baby. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly and said to Wolf King, "Quickly track Ding Ming." Hypocrite. Wolf King stared at the pangolin, sniffed carefully and said, "Go straight." Qin Feiyang looked at the crowd in front of him and said with a smile, "Please make way." The people retreated to the sides and made a path. But a young woman in her teens did not move aside and blocked the path. She was wearing a snow-white mink fur coat. She was about 1.7 meters tall, with delicate facial features, slim clothes, and a blush on her cheeks in the cold weather. Her fine black hair was tied up high with an exquisite jade hairpin inserted into it, revealing her extraordinary background. Because the jade hairpin, whether in terms of workmanship or quality, could be regarded as the best. Ordinary people could not afford it at all. She looked at Wolf King curiously, her big eyes shining with a strange light. Qin Feiyang asked, "Miss, what's the matter?" The woman in mink fur stretched out her slender finger and pointed at the Wolf King. "Sell it to me." Qin Feiyang frowned and was about to refuse. But Wolf King said first, "No need to ask him. Just tell me, what can you give me? If I'm satisfied, I'll abandon the dark and join the light, and follow you in the future." It laughed sinisterly. Abandon the dark and join the light? Qin Feiyang's face twitched. The woman in mink fur's eyes lit up, and she looked at Wolf King and said, "As long as you follow me, you can have whatever you want." Wolf King asked, "Really? I'm a woman of my word." The woman in mink fur nodded. Wolf King laughed and said, "I want to go to the Purple Sun tribe. Do you have a way?" "Why are you going to the Purple Sun tribe?" The woman in mink fur was shocked. The surrounding crowd also began to discuss in low voices, their eyes filled with bewilderment. Wolf King said, "Don't ask so many questions, just tell me, do you have a way?" The woman in mink fur said, "Of course, my father knows the coordinates of the Purple Sun tribe." Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. He thought that it would take a lot of effort to find the coordinates of the Purple Sun tribe, but he did not expect to find it as soon as he entered White Fox City. Chapter 359. Wolf King was also overjoyed, and jumped onto the shoulder of the woman in mink fur. Then, it began to fish for information. But Wolf King and the woman in mink fur were communicating with each other through telepathy, so no one else could hear them. The pangolin looked at Wolf King, and then at Qin Feiyang. Seeing that there was a hint of a smile in Qin Feiyang's eyes, it used telepathy and asked in confusion, "Qin Feiyang, is there something wrong with your head?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "What do you mean?" The pangolin said, "Ruffian Wolf is about to betray us, and you're still laughing?" "Betray us?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a smile, "Don't worry, it won't betray us." "You're so confident?" The pangolin was surprised. "You won't understand my friendship with Ruffian Wolf." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. At this moment, Wolf King suddenly shouted, "Little girl Meng, aren't you being too insincere? Forget it, I'll continue to follow little Qin Zi." After that, Wolf King jumped and landed on Qin Feiyang's shoulder. The woman in mink fur frowned. Qin Feiyang said through telepathy, "How is it? Did you find out?" Wolf King said, "Let's go first, we'll talk later." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he walked past the woman in mink fur. The woman in mink fur turned to look at Qin Feiyang and frowned. "How many gold coins do you want before you're willing to sell it to me? If it's not willing, what can I do?" Qin Feiyang turned his head and smiled at the woman, then turned around and strode away. "Humph. Wait, you'll soon know the consequences of rejecting me." The woman in mink fur snorted and also left. In the crowd, while chasing Ding Ming, Qin Feiyang asked, "White-eyed wolf, what's going on?" Wolf King said angrily, "That woman insisted that brother go home with her before she told brother the coordinates of the Ziyang tribe." The pangolin said in realization, "So you approached her to get the coordinates?" Wolf King said, "What do you think?" The pangolin said, "I thought you were going to betray me." "Betrayal?" Wolf King was stunned. He shook his head and said, "What an idiot. In this world, anyone could betray Qin Feiyang, except for Wolf King." The pangolin would not be able to understand the logic behind it in such a short time. Wolf King ignored it and sent his voice. That woman's background isn't simple at all. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang said. Her Ming family is the biggest family in White Fox City. Moreover, her father is the mayor of White Fox City and has the strength of a one-star combat emperor. Her grandfather is even stronger. He's a 3-star combat emperor. Wolf King sent his voice. The pangolin said in surprise, "Doesn't that mean White Fox City belongs to her family?" "You're not stupid." Wolf King glanced at it and said, "White Fox City is under the control of the Ming family, but they don't belong to any tribe. But because of the Ming family's strength, all the tribes within 1,000 miles, including the few big tribes nearby, will give them some face. Also, White Fox City is a gathering place for rogue cultivators. Every day, a large number of people come to trade. Therefore, the Ming family has set up a trading pavilion opposite the mayor's mansion. Even the big tribes often come here to buy resources," Wolf King said in one breath. His eyes were serious. The Ming family's influence in White Fox City was too strong. It wouldn't be easy to get the coordinates. The pangolin said, "Only the Ming family knows the coordinates of the Ziyang tribe? Other than the Ming family, no one else knows, including the leaders of the big tribes nearby," Wolf King said. "Why is that?" The pangolin was puzzled. "I heard from the woman that the Ziyang tribe is too far away from here. No one is willing to go there. The Ming family knows the coordinates because the woman's grandfather is an alchemist. He once went to the Sky Thunder City in the Ziyang tribe to buy alchemy recipes," Wolf King said. The pangolin was stunned and asked, "Where is the Sky Thunder City?" Wolf King shook his head and said, "I don't know. I didn't have enough time to inquire about it." He added, "But there is one thing that is very strange." "What is it?" Qin Feiyang and the pangolin were puzzled. Wolf King said, "There is only one alchemist in 1,000 miles. How is that possible?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. There were indeed very few alchemists, but it shouldn't be so pitiful. "It's true. That woman said it herself. Only her grandfather is an alchemist. This is also the main reason why the Ming family can dominate the White Fox City," Wolf King said. "What is the saying of the humans? Oh right, when the tiger is absent, the monkey will be king. I'm afraid this is the Ming family." The pangolin laughed evilly. "We are just passers-by in the Forgotten Land. Whether they are tigers or monkeys, it has nothing to do with us. We just want the coordinates," Qin Feiyang said indifferently, but there was a trace of suspicion in his eyes. Sky Thunder City. Heavenly Thunder Flame. Both of them had the word Heavenly Thunder. Could it be related? While he was deep in thought, he came to another fork in the road, glanced at the 2 streets in front of him, and asked, "Which direction did Ding Ming go?" Wolf King sniffed carefully. "Left. We have to hurry. There are too many people on the streets and his smell is getting fainter." "I can't tell," Wolf King said. Qin Feiyang frowned and used windriding steps to speed down. More than 10 breaths passed. Qin Feiyang came to the center of White Fox City. The city lord's mansion was right in front of him. It was more than 20 meters tall and covered in thick snow. Guards stood tall and straight all around. They looked straight ahead with sharp eyes and a murderous aura exuded from their bodies. Opposite the gate of the city lord's mansion, there was a slightly short hall. Similarly, there was a guard every 3 steps and a sentry every 7 steps. The security was extremely tight. There were 3 bold words engraved on the gate of the hall. Trading Pavilion. Many people came in and out in a hurry. "Stop." The moment he arrived, Wolf King shouted secretly. Qin Feiyang slammed on the brakes. Wolf King glanced at the city lord's mansion, and then at the trading pavilion. His eyes flashed and he said, "He entered the trading pavilion. What is he doing in the trading pavilion?" The pangolin was puzzled. "Let's go take a look and we'll know." Qin Feiyang strode in. Immediately, a young woman of 17 or 18 years old came forward. The young woman looked at Wolf King and the pangolin with a hint of joy in her eyes. It was obvious. Both of these small beasts had consumed the transformation elixir. This also proved that the person in front of her was definitely a rich man. She looked at Qin Feiyang and smiled. Young master, is there anything I can do for you? There's no need to entertain me. I'm just strolling around. Qin Feiyang smiled and walked past the young woman, scanning the hall. A hint of disappointment appeared in the young woman's eyes. But she wasn't discouraged. She walked to Qin Feiyang's side and said with a smile, "Everyone who comes is a guest. Whether young master wants to buy something or not, I should entertain you well." Qin Feiyang looked at her in surprise and said to Wolf King and the pangolin, "You two pay attention. I'll go take a look at the elixirs here." The two beasts nodded in agreement. Then they carefully scanned everyone in the hall. Qin Feiyang said to the young woman, "Take me to see the elixirs." Elixirs. The young woman's eyes lit up and she said with a smile, "The elixirs are all on the second floor. Young master, please follow me." "There's a second floor?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. The young woman was stunned and asked, "Young master, don't you know? Is this young master's first time in the trading pavilion?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I've been here a few years ago. It's been too long, so I forgot." The young woman suddenly realized and said with a smile, "Our trading pavilion has a total of 6 floors. The first floor only sells some very ordinary things and daily necessities. The second floor sells elixirs and medicinal materials. The third, fourth, and fifth floors are a super large auction house." The young woman explained. Qin Feiyang said, "What about the 6th floor?" "The 6th floor is the VIP hall. Only the distinguished guests of the trading pavilion, or those who have big deals, are qualified to go up," the young woman said. Qin Feiyang nodded. Wolf King said with a voice transmission, "Little Qinzi, I can't find Ding Ming. His scent isn't on the first floor either." The pangolin said, "I didn't see him either." "Then let's go to the second floor." Qin Feiyang responded secretly and said to the young woman with a smile, "Take me to the second floor." "Okay." The young woman nodded and led the way in front. After a while, she came to a staircase and walked up quickly. Wolf King's eyes lit up and he said to himself, "There's Ding Ming's scent here. I'd like to see who he is." A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. On the second floor, it was much quieter. There were only 50 or 60 people in the hall, which was hundreds of miles long. On the ground, there were transparent counters neatly placed. Inside, there were all kinds of medicinal materials and elixirs, which were dazzling. "There's no one here either?" Qin Feiyang glanced at the 50 or 60 people and didn't find Ding Ming. Was he in the auction house? But at this moment, Wolf King said with a voice transmission, "Ding Ming's scent is in the hall." "How is that possible?" Qin Feiyang looked carefully again. Even the staff members. But in the end he didn't see Ding Ming. But why did Wolf King say that Ding Ming's scent was here? Could it be, suddenly, he thought of a possibility, Ding Ming might have changed his appearance? At this time, the young woman asked, "Young master, what kind of elixir do you need?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Just take a look." The young woman led him towards a counter. At the same time, at the opposite counter, there was a black-haired old man wearing a leopard skin. He was looking at the elixirs on the counter, but his gaze would occasionally glance at Qin Feiyang. Wolf King had been looking for Ding Ming the whole time, and also saw the black-clothed old man. At first, it didn't care, but soon it realized that something was wrong, because Ding Ming's scent was coming from the black-clothed old man. "So it's you." Chapter 360. Qin Feiyang was holding a healing pill and looking at it carefully. Hearing Wolf King's sound transmission, his eyes flashed and he turned to look at the black-haired old man. A person's appearance could change, but the smell they emitted would not change. He believed in Wolf King's sense of smell, so it would definitely not be wrong. But he only glanced at it for a moment, then turned to look at the young woman and said with a smile, "Is there no better quality medicinal pill?" "Young master is not satisfied?" The young woman frowned. Her expression was a little displeased. This was the best medicinal pill in White Fox City, and he actually didn't like it? However, the young woman did not know that Qin Feiyang was not dissatisfied, but very dissatisfied. This healing pill was just an ordinary medicinal pill. Moreover, Even among the ordinary healing pills, it was considered a low-grade item. How could such a medicinal pill enter the eyes of a top-grade alchemist who could refine 2 pill veins? Even the medicinal pills that he casually refined were stronger than this. But he just smiled, put the healing pill on the counter, and turned to walk to another counter. Although the young woman was a little dissatisfied, she still followed. Because in her eyes, Qin Feiyang was a little fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. In fact, Qin Feiyang was not in the mood to look at these medicinal pills at all. He had been paying attention to the black-haired old man. But after a while, he came to a counter. A fiery red flower attracted his gaze. It was actually a 9 suns flower. And beside the 9 suns flower, there was a red fireglass tree. He had really picked up a treasure. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed, and was about to ask the young woman about the price. But he suddenly frowned and asked secretly, "Don't you think it's strange?" "What's strange?" Wolf King and Pangolin were puzzled. Within 1,000 miles, only that woman's grandfather is an alchemist. Then why would he sell medicinal herbs in the trading pavilion? Qin Feiyang said, "Logically speaking, the Meng family should directly refine these medicinal herbs into medicinal pills. Because the price of a finished medicinal pill would be several times higher than that of medicinal herbs. Moreover, medicinal herbs were only useful to alchemists. If one was not an alchemist, no matter how precious the herbs were, it would be useless. In this entire area, besides the Meng family, there were no other alchemists who would come here to sell these herbs. For some reason, Qin Feiyang had an intuition when he saw these herbs. The Meng family's selling of these medicinal herbs was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Wolf King and Pangolin also felt a little strange. Seeing that Qin Feiyang was sizing up the medicinal ingredients, a strange look flashed across the young woman's eyes. She asked, "Young master, do you want these herbs?" Qin Feiyang asked, "How much is this 9 suns flower?" 200,000 gold coins per flower. There's more in the warehouse. If young master needs a large amount, I can give you a discount. The young woman smiled. So cheap? Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked, "How many?" The young woman said, "I'm not sure, but there should be no less than 20 flowers." Qin Feiyang was secretly surprised. 9 suns flowers were rare in the spiritual state, but he didn't expect there to be so many here. Wolf King urged, "Little Qinzi, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and buy them all." Qin Feiyang secretly said, "Don't worry, let's figure out the situation first." He believed in his intuition that there must be a secret behind the medicinal herbs sold in the trading pavilion. At this moment, the black-haired old man opposite bought an elixir, put it in his arms, and walked towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang noticed it immediately. A glint flashed across his eyes. After the black-haired old man walked over, he chuckled and said, "Young man, do you have time to talk?" Qin Feiyang turned to look at the black-haired old man and asked in confusion, "Old man, are you talking to me?" The black-haired old man nodded. "Strange. Why would he take the initiative to approach me?" Qin Feiyang muttered and said with a smile, "If I have time, what does the old man want to talk about?" The black-haired old man glanced at the young woman and said in a hoarse voice, "Let's find a restaurant and talk slowly." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Seeing this, the young woman hurriedly said, "Young master, do you still want to buy these herbs?" "I'm not an alchemist. What use do I have for these herbs?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, took out 50 gold coins and said, "This is for your hard work." "Thank you, young master." The young woman's eyes lit up, and she hurriedly accepted it and bowed to thank him. "It's fine." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at the black-haired old man. "Old man, after you." The black-haired old man nodded and turned to walk to the first floor. Qin Feiyang followed closely behind. After the two left one after another, a door in the corner opened. A middle-aged man with a square face walked out from inside. The middle-aged man walked to the young woman's side and asked, "Why is that kid asking about herbs? Is he an alchemist?" "No." The young woman shook her head and said, "I think he's just curious." The middle-aged man said, "All right then, continue to watch. If anyone buys herbs, immediately report to me." "Yes." The young woman nodded. The middle-aged man turned to leave, but suddenly turned back to look at the young woman and asked, "Did you see Ding Ming?" The young woman said, "I saw him come back, but he suddenly disappeared." The middle-aged man said angrily, "The trading pavilion is so busy all day, and he still has time to run around. When you see him, tell him to come see me immediately." "Okay," the young woman replied. At the same time, Qin Feiyang followed the black-haired old man and walked out of the trading pavilion. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. "White-eyed wolf, are you sure he's Ding Ming?" Wolf King said, "Brother is sure." "Strange, what does he want to do?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. The black-haired old man suddenly took a step back and walked side by side with Qin Feiyang, whispering, "Young man, do you know why this old man suddenly came to see you?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and said, "Please enlighten me." The black-haired old man said, "Because you're going to buy those herbs." Qin Feiyang's heart trembled and asked calmly, "Is there a problem with those herbs?" "There's a big problem." The black-haired old man's eyes flashed and said, "You should know that only the Meng family has alchemists in this area." Qin Feiyang nodded. The black-haired old man said, "If that's the case, why are they selling herbs? Have you ever thought about this?" "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head, pretending to be puzzled. The black-haired old man said, "To tell you the truth, there are other alchemists in this area." Qin Feiyang raised his brows and asked, "Where are the other alchemists?" The black-haired old man said, "They've all been killed by the Meng family." "What?" Qin Feiyang was shocked. "The Meng family sells herbs in the trading pavilion to attract people to buy them. You know that herbs don't have much use for ordinary people. Therefore, the people who would go and buy medicinal herbs must be alchemists. And once someone buys herbs, they'll be assassinated by the Meng family immediately." The black-haired old man said in a deep voice, "Why would the Meng family do that?" The pangolin was bewildered. The black-haired old man said, "It's simple. Without other alchemists, the Meng family can safely guard White Fox City." The pangolin snorted coldly. "The Meng family is really despicable." The black-haired old man sneered. "If the Meng family wasn't despicable, they would have been annihilated by the nearby tribes." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he asked suspiciously, "Old man, this should be a secret of the Meng family, right? How do you know about it?" "I have a friend who works in the trading pavilion. One time, when I was drinking with him, he had too much to drink and told me about this secret," the black-haired old man said. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, "Then why are you helping me?" "I'm helping you because you're a stranger and I don't want you to get into trouble." "There's another reason. My grandson is also an alchemist. Just like you, he didn't know about this secret at the time and went to the trading pavilion to buy herbs happily. In the end, he was targeted by the Meng family and died outside the city. By the time I found him, he was already a cold corpse," the black-haired old man said with hatred in his eyes. Qin Feiyang said, "The Meng family is truly heartless. There's nothing I can do. The Meng family is too powerful. Even if I know about this secret, I won't dare to say it. Young man, don't talk nonsense. Otherwise, you'll get yourself killed," the black-haired old man warned. "Thank you for your reminder," Qin Feiyang said. The black-haired old man said with a smile, "We're quite fated. Why don't you accompany me for a few drinks?" "I'd love to," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "I remember that there's a restaurant in front. Let's go." The black-haired old man chuckled and walked forward quickly. Qin Feiyang followed him silently. Wolf King said telepathically, "Little Qinzi, what the hell is this man doing?" Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and said, "If I'm wrong, he said this to gain our trust and then take the opportunity to kill us." Wolf King said, "Then is what he said true? The Meng family is selling herbs to lure alchemists to buy them. It should be true. But what grandson? He must have ignored us and wanted to gain our sympathy." Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. This person thought he was very smart, but he didn't know that Wolf King had already seen through his identity. The pangolin beast said, "Then what are we waiting for? Kill him directly." Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "There's no hurry. I want to see if he has any accomplices." A moment later, the two entered a restaurant. According to the black-haired old man, all the restaurants in White Fox City were the properties of the Meng family. So here, they had to be careful with their words. Under the lead of a waiter, the two entered a private room. Not long after, the waiter brought over a few bottles of wine and a few signature dishes that smelled and tasted good. Qin Feiyang tasted it. There was no problem with the wine and dishes. Then, the old man and the young man drank and chatted. Time passed little by little. Qin Feiyang slowly realized that this person seemed to want to get him drunk. Straightforward. He took advantage of this person's intention. After secretly instructing Wolf King and the pangolin beast, they began to pretend to be drunk. About an hour later. Chapter 361. At this time, it was already late at night. Seeing Qin Feiyang and the two beasts fall, the black-haired old man's old eyes suddenly flashed with a cold light. He got up and walked to Qin Feiyang's side, stretched out his hand to push Qin Feiyang back and asked, "Little brother, are you okay?" Qin Feiyang was snoring and did not respond. "Ha." At this moment, the black-haired old man laughed, full of sarcasm. Immediately, he took out a facial restoration elixir and swallowed it, and his appearance began to change greatly. After restoring his true appearance, who else could he be but Ding Ming? Ding Ming, who had restored his true appearance, did not kill Qin Feiyang and the others. He opened the door and walked out. Wolf King was surprised and said, "Little Qinzi, what's going on? Why did he leave?" "Don't worry," Qin Feiyang whispered. Soon, Ding Ming also returned to the pavilion. But there was one more person beside him. This was also a young man, about 25 or 26 years old, wearing a white tiger skin coat. When this person looked at Qin Feiyang and the others, his eyes flashed with cold light. After Ding Ming closed the door, he said proudly, "Cousin, how is it? All of you are here. Am I powerful?" Yes. The tiger-skinned young man gave a thumbs up, looked at Qin Feiyang with resentment, and asked, "How did you do it?" "I didn't kill them outside the city, so I went straight back to the trading pavilion. I wanted to wait for a chance to kill them later. But who would have thought that they also went to the trading pavilion? I found them as soon as they entered the door. At that time, I thought of a plan. I ran to the stairs on the second floor, took the facial alteration elixir, and turned into an old man. Just when they were about to buy medicinal herbs, I took the opportunity to get close to them. In order to gain their trust, I spent a lot of time talking. Cousin, when you kill them with your own hands, you must reward me well." Ding Ming chuckled. "Buy medicinal herbs?" The tiger-skinned young man was stunned and said in surprise, "Is he an alchemist?" "I don't know." Ding Ming shook his head. The tiger-skinned youth snorted. "It doesn't matter if they are alchemists or not. As long as I can kill them with my own hands, it can be considered as revenge for Grandpa." "Grandfather?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Who was this person? But at this moment, Ding Ming's words resolved the doubts in his heart. Killing intent flickered in Ding Ming's eyes as he said, "Anyone who dares to touch our He clan won't have a good ending." The tiger-skinned youth sneered and said, "This man and the pangolin will definitely die, but we must keep this wolf alive." "Why?" Ding Ming was puzzled. The tiger-skinned youth smiled and said, "I heard that Miss Meng has taken a fancy to it. Let's send it over later. Miss Meng will be happy and will definitely reward us." "There's such a thing." Ding Ming was bewildered. "That's not all. There's something else. When this person entered the city, he injured the city guards. Now the captain of the guards has given the order to search the entire city for them. Even if we don't kill them, they will die sooner or later. But this way, I won't be able to kill them with my own hands." The tiger-skinned youth sneered. Ding Ming said, "Then hurry up and do it, in case something bad happens." But before his voice died away, a calm voice sounded. "You should let the captain of the guards kill me, because in this way, you won't die now." Qin Feiyang raised his head and glanced at the two like lightning. "What's going on?" When Ding Ming and the other two saw this, their faces were immediately filled with bewilderment. "Are you surprised?" Qin Feiyang got up and looked at Ding Ming. "We have already seen through your identity in the trading pavilion. The Wolf King and the pangolin also got up, their eyes flashing with astonishment. What? Ding Ming's face turned pale. Seen through? Then why didn't they kill him in the trading pavilion? If I kill you in the trading pavilion, I won't be able to lure the person beside you out, right? Qin Feiyang, always cut the weeds and eliminate the roots, leaving no future trouble. Qin Feiyang smiled. He had been wondering if Ding Ming had an accomplice. In the end, he really caught a big fish. He looked at the tiger-skinned youth and said, "If I'm not wrong, you should be He Yuan's grandson, right?" The tiger-skinned youth's pupils constricted. Without needing him to answer, Qin Feiyang already had the answer in his heart. He said to himself, "White-eyed wolf, do it." The Wolf King instantly activated the Fury of Fury, jumped up, landed in front of Ding Ming, and smashed out with his claws. Ah! A scream resounded through the night sky. Ding Ming flew out like a meteorite on the spot, crashing into the wall behind him. Bang! A big hole was made in the wall, and the railings of the corridor outside were smashed. With a loud bang, he fell into the lobby below. A dining table was smashed into pieces. Beside the table, there were 5 young people drinking and chatting. The table was broken, and the wine and dishes splashed all over their bodies. At that moment, they were furious. They suddenly got up, looked down at Ding Ming, and found that he was already dead. They immediately looked upstairs. At the same time, the guests at the other tables also raised their heads, their faces full of surprise and doubt. When the waiters of the restaurant came to their senses, they angrily ran upstairs. Who had the guts to cause trouble here? Were they tired of living? At this moment, a figure broke out of the door. It was the tiger-skinned youth. At this moment, his face was full of panic. After running out of the private room, he jumped down and landed beside Ding Ming. Dead. Immediately, his eyes were full of hatred. Let's see where you can run today. Wolf King also ran out, carrying an astonishing ferocious aura, and swooped down towards the leopard-skinned youth. Why does this wolf look a little familiar? Everyone was puzzled. It's the one that injured the city guard. Someone exclaimed. What? It actually dares to appear? Everyone was dumbfounded. Cousin, I will avenge you, the tiger-skinned youth said in a low voice, raised his head and looked at Wolf King with resentment, and fled towards the door. Where do you want to go? But at this moment, Qin Feiyang and the pangolin beast suddenly stopped outside the door. He knew that the tiger-skinned youth would escape. So, when the tiger-skinned youth broke out of the door, he also jumped down from the window with the pangolin beast to stop him at the door. It's him. Everyone's pupils shrank. It was this person who used gold coins to hit the 2 city guards. His attitude was even more arrogant than that wolf. Do you have to kill me? In front of him was Qin Feiyang and the pangolin beast blocking the way, and behind him was the violent Wolf King. The tiger-skinned youth was sandwiched in the middle and had nowhere to run. Moreover, he was only a 7-star martial grandmaster and had not even reached the War King. How could he be Qin Feiyang's opponent? I have always been a person who doesn't offend others if they don't offend me. Since you are from the He tribe and want to kill me, of course I won't be polite, Qin Feiyang said. As soon as he finished, the pangolin beast on his shoulder turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the tiger-skinned youth. Who can save me? The tiger-skinned youth looked helplessly at the diners around him, but no one said a word, and no one extended a helping hand. What a joke. They even dared to beat up the guards. What else did they not dare to do? No one wanted to look for abuse. However, at this moment, a burly middle-aged man walked out from the back hall. Steward Meng, please save me. The tiger-skinned youth hurriedly cried out as if he had seen his savior. The middle-aged man glanced at the scene and shouted to Qin Feiyang. Quickly tell those 2 beasts to stop. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. The pangolin beast braked and stopped, turning to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, ignore him. Interesting. The pangolin beast chuckled. This kind of day was too exciting. Ferocious might exploded. It leaped up, its battle chi surging, transforming into a bright arrow. Whoosh! It pierced through the tiger-skinned youth's chest like lightning, leaving a palm-sized bloody hole. At that moment, blood spurted out like a pillar. Qin Feiyang, you will die a horrible death. The tiger-skinned youth roared hysterically, his body falling down, lying in a pool of blood dead. Killed again? And in front of Steward Meng? Did these guys eat the guts of a leopard? Weren't they afraid that the Meng family would kill them? Steward Meng was also stunned. White Fox City was his Meng family's territory. Even if people from the nearby large tribes came here, they had to abide by the rules set by the Meng family. But this man and two beasts not only killed people here, but also treated him as heir, turning a deaf ear to his words. It was simply unforgivable. Boom! A powerful aura roared out from his body. It was the 9-star Battle King. He looked coldly at Qin Feiyang and the Wolf King and shouted, "You two are really daring. Kneel down right now." Wolf King turned around and stared with his bell-like eyes, saying disdainfully, "Who do you think you are? What right do you have to make Lord Wolf kneel?" "Good, very good. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant after I cripple you." Steward Meng was furious. He suddenly slapped towards Wolf King. His battle chi was like a rainbow, containing a shocking murderous intent. Swoosh! Qin Feiyang landed in front of Wolf King and said, "I wanted to explain to you, but it seems that it's necessary. Since you want to fight, then come. What can a mere Meng family do to me?" "A mere Meng family? Is this guy crazy? What a domineering young man." The surrounding crowd was shocked. As soon as he finished speaking, Steward Meng's battle chi rushed in front of him. Seeing that he was about to be drowned by the battle chi, Qin Feiyang raised his hand and waved, and a golden light appeared in his palm. Under everyone's incredulous gaze, Steward Meng's battle chi turned in the air and rushed towards him. What kind of battle art is this? Everyone was shocked. Steward Meng was also dumbfounded. He was full of confidence. Even if he couldn't kill this man and two beasts, he could still cripple them. But who would have thought that such a sudden change would occur? The battle chi roared and instantly drowned him. A blood-curdling scream immediately rang out. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also retreated, a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. His arm was even more lacerated. But this injury was worth it. "Leave the rest to me." Wolf King smiled sinisterly, rushed in front of Steward Meng in a few steps, and slapped his lower body with a claw. Roar! Crack! Accompanied by a pig-like scream, Steward Meng's balls were crushed and his bird died. Seeing this, the surrounding men, as well as the shop assistants who rushed over to help, couldn't help but cover their lower body. Their crotch was cold. He smashed Steward Meng's balls with one move. Chapter 362. Wolf King looked down at Steward Meng and said contemptuously, "You dare to be arrogant with just this little strength?" Steward Meng endured the pain and said sternly, "My Meng family will not let you off." Still arrogant? Wolf King was stunned, and his eyes were fierce. Battle chi gushed out, and with a claw, it directly smashed Steward Meng's chi. "Ah!" Steward Meng screamed miserably, his face was distorted, and his heart was full of resentment. His chi is broken. Then even if he survives, he will only be a cripple in the future. They are really challenging the dignity of the Meng family by doing this. The surrounding crowd was discussing. This man and two beasts were simply lawless. Wolf King laughed and said, "Old man, are you still arrogant now?" Steward Meng roared, "You will be torn into pieces, and your bones will be crushed to ashes. Stubborn. Looks like I can only use my ultimate move." Wolf King laughed evilly. What ultimate move? Everyone was surprised. But in the next moment, everyone's face couldn't help but twitch. That bastard's ultimate move was actually a pool of urine? Too shameless. Too cheap. Provoking it was destined to be a tragedy. After Wolf King finished, he shook that thing and shouted, Come, continue to be arrogant." But before he finished speaking, he was stunned. Steward Meng was already dead. Although his chi was destroyed, he shouldn't have died so quickly. Obviously, it was because of Wolf King's urine. He was so angry that he died. How did he die? "I haven't used my ultimate move yet." Wolf King was a little angry. What? There's still an ultimate move? The eyes of the surrounding diners widened, and they immediately scattered, fleeing toward the door without looking back. They were afraid of getting themselves into trouble. What are you doing? Didn't you see the guard captain coming? Get out of my way. At this moment, an arrogant shout came from outside the door. There's something to play with again. Wolf King's eyes lit up. It turned into the size of a palm and jumped onto Qin Feiyang's shoulder. At the same time, he also snatched Steward Meng's Cosmos bag. The pangolin said in disdain, "Brother Wolf, why are you so despicable? You're practically invincible. Are you itching for a beating again?" Wolf King glared at the pangolin with hostility. The pangolin shrank its neck and asked, "Qin Feiyang, what do we do now?" "What should we do?" Qin Feiyang shook his head and said with a smile, "Of course we have to meet them." With that said, he walked to the front of a dining table, turned around and sat down. He raised his head and looked at the door, waiting for the guard captain to come in. "He's not running away?" Seeing this, the waiters of the restaurant were dumbfounded. If it were anyone else, upon hearing that the captain of the guards had arrived, they would have fled long ago. But this person was just sitting there leisurely. Was he not afraid at all? A short while later, all the diners ran out. Following closely, a middle-aged man wearing a golden tiger skin strode into the restaurant under the escort of a group of guards. There were a total of 11 people. The big man with a black mole was also in the crowd. As soon as he saw Qin Feiyang and Wolf King, the big man with a black mole became angry and said to the captain of the guards, "Sir, it's them." The captain of the guards glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others, then scanned the messy lobby. When he saw Steward Meng lying in a pool of blood, his face suddenly sank. "What's going on? Why did Steward Meng die?" The captain of the guards shouted. "They killed Steward Meng." The group of waiters pointed at Qin Feiyang and the others indignantly. "What? Coming to our Meng family's territory and killing our Meng family's people? How preposterous! Captain of the guards, quickly take them down." The big man with a black mole and the other guards were all ferocious and murderous. The captain of the guards also had a gloomy face. This was especially true when he saw Qin Feiyang still sitting there leisurely. The anger in his heart was unable to be contained. "Drag him up for me." He waved his hand, and 2 guards immediately walked out of the crowd and rushed toward Qin Feiyang. One of them was the big man with a black mole. "Little beast, even if the Heavenly King descends to the mortal world today, he can't save you," he muttered secretly, and the murderous look in his eyes was not concealed at all. As soon as they rushed to Qin Feiyang, the 2 stretched out their arms and grabbed at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang glanced at the 2 and said lightly, "I advise you not to touch me." The 2 were slightly stunned. "What? With the captain of the guards here, you dare to attack us? Boy, we advise you, you'd better be honest, or there won't be anyone to collect your corpse later." The 2 smiled disdainfully and continued to grab at Qin Feiyang. At the same time, the other guards as well as the waiters of the restaurant couldn't help but show ridicule. Qin Feiyang glanced at everyone, then looked at the big man with a black mole again, and said lightly, "I really don't dare to attack you, but I dare to kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, the murderous look in his eyes surged. He pointed at them in the air. The red sword Qi turned into 2 flashes of lightning and pierced through the hearts of the 2 men. Immediately, blood splashed in the sky. Accompanied by a scream, the 2 men suddenly fell to the ground and died. What? In front of the captain of the guards, he dares to kill. The people present were all stunned. The diners who had escaped before gathered outside the door and looked at this scene with disbelief. They had seen a lot of arrogant people, but it was the first time they met such an arrogant young man. Looking at his appearance, he didn't put the Meng family in his eyes at all. Qin Feiyang lowered his arm, looked up at the captain of the guards, and said with a faint smile, "It's so comfortable to sit, why don't you sit?" The captain of the guard's face darkened, and said, "Do you know what the consequences of your actions will be?" Qin Feiyang said, "I'm all ears. White Fox City is my Meng family's territory. What my Meng family says is what it is. Your current behavior is challenging the dignity of my Meng family." The captain of the guard shouted. "So what?" Qin Feiyang said. "So what?" The captain of the guards was so angry that he laughed and said, You will die a horrible death. Is that so? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. He looked at the captain of the guards. This person's aura was even weaker than Steward Meng, and he dared to be arrogant in front of him? Just because he was from the Meng family, did he think that he wouldn't dare to kill him? How naive. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, "Don't leave a single one alive, kill them all." Boom. Wolf King and the pangolin rushed out from his shoulder at almost the same time. Ferocious aura erupted. This was a one-sided massacre. One by one, the guards and waiters fell down. Blood flowed on the ground, dyeing the entire hall red. Corpses were scattered messily on the ground. The pungent smell of blood filled the air. This place was like a Jura hell, and it was too horrible to look at. You! How dare you be so arrogant? The captain of the guards looked at this scene, and his anger rushed to the top of his head, making him almost go crazy. Wolf King finished off the last guard, turned to look at him and chuckled. I still want to kill you. What should I do? The captain of the guard's pupils constricted, and he turned around without hesitation and fled outside. He was just a captain. His strength was only a 5-star battle monarch. He dared to be so arrogant because he had the Meng family's support. However, the man and two beasts in front of him obviously didn't buy it. He had to run. However, facing Wolf King, who was full of killing intent, how could he run away? Wolf King stood up and caught up with him in a few steps. He smashed the captain's head with his claws, and blood splattered on the spot. The hearts of the people gathered outside the gate were surging with waves of shock. They didn't know how to describe this man and two beasts. Arrogant? Arrogant? Lawless? None of them were enough. Whoosh. At this moment, Qin Feiyang stood up and walked toward the door. Everyone retreated to the side in fear. After killing so many people, he wanted to leave just like that? The Ming family probably wouldn't agree. Qin Feiyang walked out of the restaurant and walked along the street toward the city lord's mansion. Ding Ming's matter had been settled, and it was time to ask the Ming family for the coordinates. The night in the Forgotten Land was like a piece of ink. Moreover, it was colder than the day. On both sides of the street, there were large lanterns hanging at intervals, emitting a hazy light. The city lord's mansion. In the meeting hall, a middle-aged man wearing a golden tiger skin coat sat on the main seat. He was the patriarch of the Meng family, and also the city lord of White Fox City. Beside him, there was a woman wearing mink fur. Her skin was sparkling and translucent, and it would break with a flick of a finger. She was Meng Tong. In front of the father and daughter, there was a middle-aged man standing respectfully. He was 8 feet tall and had a strong back and a bare waist. He was like a small giant, filled with a valiant aura. The mink fur woman looked at the valiant man and asked, "Have you investigated his background?" "Miss, this subordinate is incompetent." This subordinate only found out that he is a rogue cultivator. The place where he first appeared was the glacier forest near the Lu tribe. The burly man said respectfully, "Glacier forest." The father and daughter were shocked. "I have heard of the glacier forest's fierce reputation. It is said that there are a large number of War Emperor realm beasts there. It is a forbidden area in this area. Why would they appear there?" Meng Tong frowned. This subordinate is also very puzzled. The burly man shook his head. Meng Tong turned to look at the Meng family lord and said, "Father, I don't dare to do anything. I want that wolf." "Don't worry, it won't be able to escape," the Meng family lord said with a smile, his face full of doting. Then he looked at the burly man and ordered, "Commander, go and capture them immediately." The burly man said, "I heard that the captain of the first team has already gone to look for them. He will probably bring them here soon." "No. This kid dares to go to the glacier forest. His strength is definitely not simple. It is better for you to go there personally," the Meng family lord said. Meng Tong added, "If he is alive, I want to see him. If he is dead, I want to see his corpse." This subordinate understands. The burly man bowed and replied, then turned and left. But at this moment, a guard hurriedly ran in and said, "Patriarch, Miss Commander, that Qin Feiyang is here. He said that he wants to see the patriarch." The three of them suddenly stood up. Meng Tong said, "Where is he?" The guard said, "Just outside the gate." Meng Tong was overjoyed and hurriedly said, "Bring him in immediately." "Yes." The guard stood up, turned around and ran out. "Wait." The burly man stopped him and asked, "Did you see the captain of the first team?" "No." The guard shook his head. "No." The burly man frowned and waved his hand. "Go." Chapter 363. Not long after, Qin Feiyang followed behind the guard and walked into the meeting hall. The burly man and Meng family lord immediately looked at him with a hint of curiosity in their eyes. Meng Tong's gaze fell directly on Wolf King, who was on Qin Feiyang's shoulder. "You can leave." The burly man's eyes flashed, and he waved his hand at the guard. The guard bowed and left. The burly man said, "Qin Feiyang, tell this commander, where is the captain of the first team now?" "Dead." Qin Feiyang said. "What?" The burly man's body trembled. Meng Tong and Meng family lord also frowned. The burly man asked, "How did he die?" Wolf King said, "Do you still need to ask? Of course we killed him." Meng family lord was furious and shouted, "Are you not afraid of death? How dare you kill people of my Meng family?" Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "There is no one in this world who is not afraid of death, but who told them to die? You are really arrogant." Meng family lord slammed the table in front of him and the table shattered. "Family lord, something bad has happened." At this moment, another guard ran in anxiously, but when he saw Qin Feiyang here, he couldn't help but be stunned. Meng family lord frowned. "What's the matter?" "This subordinate just received the news. The captain of the first team, manager Meng of the restaurant, 10 guards, and more than a dozen waiters were all killed." The guard said, "Manager Meng is also dead?" Meng family lord was stunned and said angrily, "Tell me who did it." The guard pointed at Qin Feiyang and said, "It's them." "Damn it." The Meng family lord was furious. Meng Tong's face was also covered in frost. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said coldly, "You are provoking me." Wolf King said disdainfully, "Little Miss Meng, you think too highly of yourself. Why can't we touch a small Meng family?" "The tiny Meng family?" Meng Tong immediately jumped up as if his tail had been stepped on. He said sternly, "Father, quickly kill them." Qin Feiyang looked at her with disgust and said, "Meng family lord, I didn't come to White Fox City to make enemies with your Meng family." The Meng family lord said in a deep voice, "Is there any point in saying this now? It is indeed meaningless. Then I'll be straightforward. Give me the coordinates of Purple Sun Tribe or Sky Thunder City, and I will leave White Fox City immediately," Qin Feiyang said. The three of them looked at each other with a trace of surprise in their eyes. The burly man asked, "Why do you want the coordinates of Purple Sun Tribe and Sky Thunder Pool?" Qin Feiyang said, "That has nothing to do with you. Haha. You are now in the city lord's mansion. Whether you can come out alive or not depends on our wishes. So you'd better be honest and answer whatever I ask you." The burly man let out a hearty laugh as he shouted in a sinister voice, "Then I'm sorry. I am afraid of everything, but I am not afraid of threats." "But I don't know if you are afraid or not," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "What do you mean?" The three of them frowned. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, "Assassinating the alchemists in this area will cause public outrage." "How do you know?" Meng Tong was surprised. The burly man's face changed. He immediately looked at Meng Tong and shouted, "Young miss, don't talk nonsense." After being scolded by the burly man, Meng Tong suddenly came to her senses and cursed in her heart. Why was she so stupid? By asking this question, wasn't it equivalent to admitting that there was such a thing in disguise? "Don't hide it. I can't be bothered with your despicable business. As long as you give me the coordinates, I will pretend that I have never been to White Fox City," Qin Feiyang said. "Do we look like idiots to you? I thought you were a talent and wanted to spare your life to serve the Meng family. But now it seems that I have no choice but to silence you." "Commander, do it!" Meng family lord shouted. Boom. The burly man's body trembled and his aura burst out. He was a 9-star battle monarch. "Go to hell, you little bastard." With a roar, his large fan-like hand slapped towards Qin Feiyang's head with an astonishing astral wind. You will pay for this. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. He activated the return formula and slapped with his palm without dodging. Bang! The two palms collided, and both of them retreated at the same time. How is this possible? Meng family lord and Meng Tong were stunned. The guard commander was a 9-star battle monarch. Qin Feiyang's aura was only that of a 4-star battle monarch. How could he block the guard commander's full-strength palm strike? Furthermore, the two of them were evenly matched. The reason for that was because both of their arms were lacerated. The guard commander was the most shocked. He could clearly feel that the force of his palm strike was completely reflected back. In other words, the other party did not use any strength at all. He was just borrowing the force of his attack. What kind of battle technique was that? Was there such a battle technique in the world? I'd like to try again. He stepped on the ground, stopped his body, and rushed toward Qin Feiyang again. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed fiercely, and he also rushed forward. The two of them raised their other hand at the same time and slapped each other. The situation from before reappeared. Sure enough, he's borrowing the force of his attack. The burly man's heart trembled. But then, a sneer appeared on his face as he stared at Qin Feiyang and said, My Ming family has alchemists. We have as many healing pills as we want. Do you have any? He took out a healing pill and waved it in front of Qin Feiyang as if he was showing off. Then he threw it into his mouth. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Wolf King and the pangolin also looked at each other. How could he show off an ordinary healing pill in front of a top-grade alchemist? Was this person's head kicked by a donkey? What a joke! However, Qin Feiyang did not say anything. He took out a healing pill with 2 veins and threw it into his mouth at lightning speed. It was so fast that even the Meng family lord could not see it. The injuries on both of his arms began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Meng family lord and the other two were still wondering what kind of pill Qin Feiyang had taken. But when they saw the situation, they turned pale with fright. What kind of pill did he take? How could his recovery speed be so fast? Clang! Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Chang Shui appeared out of thin air. He grabbed it in his hand and pounced on the commander of the guards. This was the advantage of high-quality healing pills. The speed of recovery was faster than the commander of the guards. He could seize the opportunity and quickly counterattack before the commander of the guards could make a move. Seeing this, the commander of the guards instinctively took a step back with a trace of panic in his eyes. But then his face twisted. He was a 9-star battle king. How could he be afraid of a 4-star battle king? His pride did not allow him to retreat, let alone be afraid. Family lord, don't make a move. Kill. Without turning his head, he growled at the Meng family's patriarch, and a white beast shadow appeared behind him. That was a snow mountain ape. It had 2 heads and 4 bell-sized eyes that flickered with a terrifying ferocious light. As soon as the battle soul appeared, it beat its chest and stomped its feet. With an extremely terrifying ferocious aura, it pounced on Qin Feiyang. However, Qin Feiyang turned a blind eye to it. How dare you activate your battle soul in front of me? Are you looking for trouble? Wolf King chuckled. His whole body emitted a golden light, and a golden beast shadow appeared out of thin air. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire conference hall collapsed. The battle soul of the commander of the guards was directly swallowed by the golden beast shadow. At the same time, Qin Feiyang's murderous aura was monstrous. He stabbed the lower abdomen of the commander of the guards. Then, he disappeared without a trace in an instant. The conference hall was built with a kind of black stone bricks. For a moment, countless gravel flew in all directions, smashing deep pits on the ground, and a loud rumbling sound was heard. Dust filled the air and nothing could be seen. And in the loud noise, there was a painful scream that echoed endlessly. That was the scream of the commander of the guards. Hearing the scream, the Meng family lord's expression changed abruptly. He protected Meng Tong by his side and continuously attacked, shattering the falling stone bricks one after another. A moment later, he finally found the commander of the guards. However, at this moment, The commander of the guards had already been smashed beyond recognition by the falling stone bricks. Even his body was about to turn into a pile of mud. His breathing and heartbeat had also stopped. He had already died. Damn bastard. The Meng family lord was furious. The aura of the war emperor erupted. The battle chi was like a tide, sweeping in all directions. The collapsed hall was instantly reduced to ashes. Following closely, with a wave of his hand, a gust of wind rose, and the billowing dust and smoke surged into the sky. This place became clear all of a sudden. However, there was no trace of Qin Feiyang. The Meng family lord scanned his surroundings, but didn't even see a ghost. He immediately roared, "Little bastard, get out here! What's going on?" The great council hall actually collapsed. Could it be that it's Qin Feiyang's masterpiece again? When the guards heard the news, they ran over from all directions, their faces full of shock and bewilderment. Meng Tong looked at the guards and asked, "Have you seen Qin Feiyang?" "No." Everyone shook their heads. "Bastard! How did he disappear in the blink of an eye?" The father and daughter's faces were as gloomy as water. Not only did he kill the commander of the guards, but he also tore down the great council hall. To the Meng family, this was simply a great humiliation. "I'll give you half an hour to find them. Otherwise all of you will die," the Meng family lord shouted, his killing intent soaring into the sky. "Yes. Let's go." The guards' bodies and minds trembled as they immediately began to search. Inside the castle, the pangolin asked, "Qin Feiyang, what do we do now?" The Meng family was completely enraged. There was no way they could get the coordinates. "What are you afraid of? Let's find a chance to go out and kill all the Meng family's minions." Wolf King's eyes flashed with a fierce light. "I'm not afraid. I'm worried that I won't be able to get the coordinates. Brother Wolf, you have to know that Qin Feiyang only has 5 years. If we don't return in 5 years, the Black Fury poison will act up. At that time, even the gods won't be able to save him," the pangolin said. The pangolin is right. Although 5 years is a long time, if we don't have the coordinates, we won't be able to reach the Purple Sun Tribe or Sky Thunder City, let alone find the flame of heavenly thunder. Fatso, who was organizing the Qiankuan bag, interrupted. Chapter 364. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and smiled. "Actually, you don't have to worry about me. Boss, don't be too relaxed. If you really kick the bucket, who will Fat Lord follow in the future? Fat Lord still wants to be the Imperial General of the Great Qin Empire," Fatso said. "Imperial General?" The pangolin widened its eyes and said in surprise, "Qin Feiyang, are you from the Imperial capital?" Wolf King stared at it unkindly and said, "Little follower, if you want to live, you have to understand one thing. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." "That's right. The more you know, the worse it will be for you." Fatso also realized that he had let it slip. The pangolin shrunk its neck, but its eyes were filled with thoughts. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at Fatso and said unhappily, "If I don't let you be the Imperial General, will you want me to die?" "What are you talking about? We are brothers. If anyone wants to kill you, they will have to step over Fat Lord's corpse first." The fatty patted his chest, looking as if he was ready to risk his life, and made a solemn vow. "That's enough." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Let's go into seclusion for a while." "What? You're still going into seclusion?" Fatso, Wolf King, and the pangolin all looked at him in disbelief. This guy, is he really not worried at all? Even Lu Hong opened her eyes. There was a trace of worry in her bright eyes. "Even if we can't get the coordinates here, we can still go to other areas. The Forgotten Land is so big. I don't believe that only the Meng family knows the coordinates of the Purple Sun Tribe and Sky Thunder City," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Seeing that Fatso and the others still wanted to say something, he waved his hand and said, "Cut the crap. Go into seclusion." Then he walked to the iron box and began to draw the 4th stroke of the battle formula. Although he had won the last few battles, he still felt that it was very strenuous. This was especially true when he fought with the 9-star battle monarch. Every time he fought, both sides would suffer great losses. Therefore, he had to quickly break through another small realm. When he broke through to the 5-star Battle King realm, he would be able to crush a 9-star Battle King with the power of the return character art. He might even be able to resist a 1-star Combat Emperor. Seeing this, Wolf King and Fatso didn't say anything else. Wolf King took out a Supreme Grade Battle Chi pill and began to refine it. Fatso also continued to check the Cosmos bags. The pangolin looked on enviously. It eagerly approached Fatso. Before it could speak, Fatso said, "Can't you see that Fat Lord is very busy? Go away." The pangolin's body stiffened, and it resentfully retreated. It rolled its eyes and moved closer to Wolf King. "Brother Wolf, look. No matter what, this king is still your little brother. If there are benefits, shouldn't you think of this king? You must have a lot of Battle Chi pills. Can you give this king some?" It licked its face and smiled obsequiously. Wolf King glanced at it and said, "Look at yourself. Do you look like a little brother?" The pangolin nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, yes, yes. This king was wrong in the past. This king will definitely listen to you in the future." "Who would believe you?" Wolf King snorted coldly. The pangolin vowed, "Brother Wolf, you have to believe this king. This king has always been a man of his word. I will never go back on my words." TSK. Wolf King's eyes were filled with disdain. However, he also took out a pile of Battle Chi pills from the Cosmos bag around his neck. "Take it. After all, you're following us now. I don't want you to drag us down," Wolf King said. "Thank you, Brother Wolf. Brother Wolf, don't worry. I will work hard to cultivate." The pangolin looked at the Battle Chi pills with shining eyes. Outside, the entire White Fox City was in chaos. All the guards of the city lord's mansion were dispatched to search for Qin Feiyang throughout the city. The city gates and city walls were also completely sealed off. They could only enter, not leave. But as the days passed, not even a shadow was seen, let alone a person. Did he disappear into thin air? It was impossible. He must be hiding somewhere. Later, the Meng family lord even issued a bounty. Anyone who reported would be rewarded with 1 million gold coins. If they could capture him alive and bring him to the city lord's mansion, not only would they be rewarded with 10 million gold coins, but they would also be rewarded with a red fire glass pill. As soon as the bounty was issued, everyone in the city went crazy. They went from house to house to look for Qin Feiyang. A month later, a burly man wearing a black tiger pelt rushed back from outside the city, looking travel-worn. He immediately found the Meng family lord. In a hall, the Meng family lord looked at the burly man and asked, "How is it, have you found out?" "Yes. I've asked the people of the He family tribe. They said that Qin Feiyang has an ability that allows him to disappear and reappear suddenly. It's because of this ability that the He family tribe can only watch him do evil. But it's said that he can't move when he disappears," the burly man said. "What do you mean?" The Meng family lord frowned. The burly man said, "It means that he has been staying at the place where he disappeared." The Meng family lord was surprised. He stayed at the place where he disappeared, but no one could see or sense his aura. How could there be such a bizarre thing in the world? "Family lord, no matter where he is hiding, at least we know that he is still in the Great Council Hall," the burly man said with a cold light in his eyes. "That's right. As long as he is still in the Great Council Hall, he can't escape. Take your men and surround the Great Council Hall immediately. Don't let a fly go. As long as you can capture them, you will be the commander of the guards in the future," the Meng family lord said. "Thank you, family lord. This subordinate will definitely capture them and live up to family lord's high expectations." The burly man was overjoyed. He bowed and thanked Meng family lord before turning around and leaving quickly. The collapsed Great Council Hall had been rebuilt. The burly man ran over with a group of guards. There were 50 to 60 of them. The burly man glanced at the Great Council Hall, waved his hand and shouted, "Quickly surround the Great Council Hall. Don't let them escape." "Yes," the group of guards responded. Some people surrounded the Great Council Hall. Some people entered the Great Council Hall. In short, there were people both inside and outside. A short guard came up to the burly man and said with a flattering smile, "Brother Mengcheng, congratulations. Please take care of me in the future. Meng Qing shook his head and said, It's too early to congratulate me. Let's capture Qin Feiyang first. With brother Meng Qing personally taking action, won't it be a piece of cake? Isn't that right, everyone? The short guard shouted. Yes. The other guards responded loudly with fawning expressions on their faces. All right. Be serious. When I really become the commander, I definitely won't forget my brothers. Meng Qing chuckled. In his opinion, the position of the commander was already set in stone. There was no way he could run away from it. But at this moment, painful screams suddenly sounded in the Great Council Hall. What happened? Let's go in and take a look. Meng Qing's expression changed as he rushed into the Great Council Hall. The guards also followed. However, as soon as they reached the door of the Great Council Hall, they stopped in unison and looked inside in horror. They saw a wolf more than 7 meters tall with bulging muscles all over its body. It was like a killing machine as it crazily slaughtered the guards in the Great Council Hall. Its snow-white fur had already been dyed blood red. It was Wolf King. As early as yesterday, it had already broken through to the 5-star Battle King realm. It was bored when it heard the commotion outside and became excited. It asked Qin Feiyang to send it out of the castle. With the cultivation of a 5-star Battle King and the superior battle art, Berserker's Fury, it now had the combat power of an 8-star Battle King. The strongest of these guards was only a 5-star Battle King. Most of them were 3-star and 4-star Battle Kings. Although some of them had battle arts, they were basically inferior battle arts. How could they be a match for Wolf King? Killing them was as easy as cutting vegetables. What a terrifying strength. The guards outside the Great Council Hall revealed a look of horror in their eyes. There are so many of us. What are we afraid of? Hurry up and inform the Patriarch. The rest of you, follow me in and stall it. As long as we catch it, Qin Feiyang will definitely not be able to escape. Meng Qing shouted. The short guard immediately turned and ran away. Follow me. Meng Qing roared and took the lead to rush into the Great Council Hall. Battle aura surged. He used his battle art and charged toward Wolf King. He was a 7-star Battle King. With his inferior battle art, his strength was comparable to Wolf King's. However, his combat instincts were not as good as Wolf King's. Moreover, in the same realm, beasts were stronger than humans. This was because the bodies of beasts were naturally strong and powerful. However, this could not be generalized. Some people's physical bodies were no worse than those of ferocious beasts, after being tempered. However, this was a minority. Meng Qing was obviously not this kind of person. After a few rounds, he was hit by Wolf King's claws on his lower body. The intense pain caused by his balls being crushed almost made him faint. The Wolf King seized the opportunity and snapped his throat in one bite. Seeing this, the other guards no longer had the courage to continue fighting. They began to flee. Wolf King seemed to be possessed by the god of death. He killed one person with every step he took. Blood was everywhere as he killed his way out of the main hall. In less than 10 breaths, all the guards fell to the ground and their blood flowed like a river. Ow! After killing, it glanced at the corpses on the ground and howled at the sky. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang appeared out of thin air and came to the main hall. He brought Wolf King to the castle. The man and the wolf disappeared in less than 3 breaths. The Meng family's patriarch arrived with the short guard and landed outside the main hall. Looking at the bloody scene around him, the short guard was paralyzed on the spot. His face was pale. A pool of water flowed out from under his crotch. The smell of urine permeated the air. Crack! Meng family lord's eyes were red. His 10 fingers were tightly clenched together. These were all the elite disciples of the Meng family. However, in just a short while all of them had died. Unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. Little beast, if you have the guts, come out and fight me fair and square. He roared at the sky, his anger soaring to the sky. However, no one responded to him at all. Call someone over immediately and bury the bodies. From now on, I will personally guard this place and wait for them to come out. After an unknown amount of time, the Meng family's patriarch took a deep breath and instructed the short guard. Then he strode into the conference hall. However, He did not know that Qin Feiyang had already left the main hall. Chapter 365. Inside the castle. With the Meng family lord overseeing the meeting hall, the restless Wolf King could only continue to cultivate. Qin Feiyang's black demon poison also acted up again. The sudden sharp pain from his heart almost made him faint. Fortunately, he calculated the time and was prepared, so he took the transparent liquid in time. 5 days later, boom! His arm trembled, and at the same time, his aura erupted. His cultivation realm was like a volcanic eruption, climbing to the 5-star Battle King. Wolf King opened his eyes and asked, "Are you done copying?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. The 4th stroke of the battle formula was like a star, shining with a dazzling light. Wolf King urged, "Then hurry up and refine the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill." As long as they took the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill, their cultivation would soar. No, the level of the Nether Devil Flame is not high enough to refine a Juku Yellow Dragon Pill with 2 patterns. Qin Feiyang shook his head. The Juku Yellow Dragon Pill was the same as the Scarlet Fire-colored glass pill. Everyone could only take it once in their life. A Juku Yellow Dragon Pill with 1 pattern could only break through a small realm. So, if they took the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill now, it would be a waste of this opportunity. Wolf King said, "Then when do we have to return to the Holy Temple?" "There's no need to wait until then." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a light flashed across his eyes. "No need." Wolf King was stunned and asked in surprise, "What do you mean?" Boom. At this moment, Fatso also broke through to the 3-star Battle King. He opened his eyes and chuckled. "Brother Wolf, why are you so stupid? Think about it carefully. Why did we come to the Forgotten Land this time?" Wolf King said angrily, "Nonsense, of course it's for the Heavenly Thunder Flame." As soon as he finished speaking, Wolf King suddenly came to a realization and said with a sinister smile, "Brother understands, you want to use the Heavenly Thunder Flame to refine the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill." "Yes. The Sacred Hall's alchemy fire is only at the 3rd grade, but boss can refine a pill with 2 alchemy veins. The Heavenly Thunder Flame is a 6th grade pill fire. Who knows, it might be able to refine 3, 4 or even 5 pill veins. The power of the 9 Songs Yellow Dragon Pill will naturally increase exponentially. So there's no need to be in such a hurry," Fatso said. "That's right." Wolf King nodded repeatedly. A 9 Melody Yellow Dragon Pill with 2 pill veins could increase one's cultivation by 2 minor realms. Not to mention 3, 4 or 5. He couldn't help but feel excited just thinking about it. The pangolin looked at them in confusion and asked, Can you explain to this king what the 9 Tunes Yellow Dragon Pill is?" Wolf King smiled mysteriously and said, "It's a miraculous pill that will leave you dumbfounded. Can't you make it clear?" The pangolin was helpless. Fatso said disdainfully, "You're not one of us. Why should we tell you?" Hey, you can't say that. Yes, this king admits that there's still a gap between us. But now, we're at least grasshoppers on the same rope. Can't we trust each other more?" The pangolin said unhappily. "Only a ghost would believe you." Fatso and Wolf King glanced at it disdainfully at the same time. It wasn't so easy to integrate into this small team. If the pangolin didn't show sincerity, it would probably be impossible for a lifetime. Not to mention getting benefits from Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang glanced at the pangolin and asked, "Fatso, have you sorted out those Qingquan bags?" "Yes." Fatso nodded. Wolf King said, "What treasures are there?" "There's no treasure, just a lot of medicinal herbs and gold coins. Let's not talk about the other medicinal herbs. There are medicinal herbs for the Potential Pill, 9 Tunes Yellow Dragon Pill, and Red Fire-colored Glass Pill. There's a total of more than 1 billion gold coins. There's also a lot of weapons and pills, but their value isn't high," Fatso said. Wolf King said, "No battle arts?" "No." Fatso shook his head. Wolf King's eyes suddenly had a trace of disappointment. Qin Feiyang said, "There's still a long way to go. We can slowly think of a way to create battle arts in the future. The most important thing now is to work hard to improve our own strength." Fatso said, Boss, since your talent is so good, why don't you create a few battle arts yourself? Create? Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a wry smile. Creating battle arts requires the right time, place, and people. None of them can be missing. I've heard that some people can't create a battle art even after spending their whole life painstakingly. But some people suddenly comprehend a battle art. In short, creating battle arts can't be forced. It all depends on luck. Qin Feiyang said. Fatso and Wolf King looked at each other. They didn't expect that creating battle arts would be so difficult. Okay, you guys continue to cultivate. I'll go out and meet the Meng family head. Qin Feiyang's mind stirred, and he disappeared without a trace. At the same time, outside the Great Council Hall. Who is it? Qin Feiyang's appearance immediately alarmed the guards in front of the hall. It's you. Family head, Qin Feiyang has appeared. When they saw that it was Qin Feiyang, the few guards' faces changed and shouted loudly. Whoosh! The next moment, the Meng family's patriarch rushed out of the hall. You're finally willing to come out. Give me your life. His eyes were filled with bone-piercing killing intent. Wait. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and shouted. However, Meng family lord turned a deaf ear to him. His battle chi surged and he angrily punched towards Qin Feiyang. Then I'll try to see if the current return technique can compete with the War Emperor. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a radiant light. He raised his big hand, and a golden light burst out from his palm. In an instant, the fist and the palm met. Boom. Immediately, a terrifying airwave, with the two as the center, rolled out in all directions. The surrounding guards were all blown away and blood spurted out of their mouths. At the same time, accompanied by a series of loud noises, the land within a radius of hundreds of meters was instantly razed to the ground. The Great Council Hall also collapsed again. Puff! Qin Feiyang's face turned pale and blood kept spurting out of his mouth. He flew out like a meteorite. His arm was shattered on the spot. On the other hand, Meng family lord. Although he was also pushed back by the return technique, the injury on his arm was not very serious. It was just that his skin and flesh were cracked. Sure enough, no matter how heaven-defying the return technique was, in the face of overwhelming combat power, it couldn't defeat the strong. But even so, the power of the return technique made Qin Feiyang very satisfied. Because there was a huge gap between a combat emperor and a combat king. This gap was an insurmountable gap. It was very difficult to break through. But from the current situation, although he couldn't win, he wouldn't be instantly killed when facing a one-star combat emperor in the future. In the blink of an eye, accompanied by a bang, Qin Feiyang was like a meteorite, smashing into the ground dozens of meters away, creating a deep pit on the ground. His body seemed to be falling apart. Swish! Meng family lord swooped down and landed on top of the deep pit. He looked down at Qin Feiyang and said, "If you have any last words, say it quickly." Last words? Qin Feiyang climbed up in a sorry state and kept vomiting blood. He raised his head and looked up. There was still no fear in his eyes. He said indifferently, "You should know very well that you can't kill me." Meng family lord's face darkened. That's right. He really didn't have the slightest confidence. But if he didn't kill this person, the resentment in his heart would not disappear. I'll say it again. Give me the coordinates and I'll leave immediately. Otherwise, I'll fight to the death with the Meng family. Now you know what I'm capable of. If I really do that, you'll be the ones to suffer in the end. Qin Feiyang said. How dare you threaten me? Meng family lord's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He suddenly raised his big hand. Battle chi surged, and a huge golden hand appeared out of nowhere. Die. Following his roar, the big golden hand carried an astonishing ferocious aura and slapped toward Qin Feiyang. You asked for it. Don't blame me for being merciless. Qin Feiyang was also angry and disappeared without a trace. Boom. The big golden hand fell, and the ground shook violently. Cracks spread in all directions. Damn it. The head of the Meng family was seething with anger. Where is this little bastard hiding? Even a combat king couldn't do anything to him. If this continued, the Meng family would become a joke sooner or later. Inside the castle, Qin Feiyang consumed a regeneration pill. Then his shattered technique started to slowly regenerate. Little Qinzi, don't talk nonsense with him. Just kill them all. Wolf King's eyes flashed with a ferocious light. Let me think about it first. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. A moment later, murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The first step is to find out the location of the trading pavilion's warehouse. The second step is to loot the warehouse. Don't leave a single hair behind. The third step is to assassinate the Meng family and leave White Fox City directly after that. But remember, don't kill the innocent. Qin Feiyang said. Good. I've been waiting for you to say that. Wolf King shouted excitedly. Fatso was also excited. As for the pangolin, it was also eager to give it a try. Wolf King suddenly said, the warehouse is not a place where ordinary people can enter. Do you have any good ideas? Yes, let's find Meng Tong, Qin Feiyang said. Good idea. Wolf King's eyes lit up. Meng Tong is the pearl of the Meng family. As long as she leads the way, we can definitely sneak in. Don't let her lead the way. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Wolf King was puzzled. What do you mean? Fatso said. Boss, you mean to let someone replace Meng Tong? Wolf King said angrily. Can't you explain it all at once? Think about it. If Meng Tong leads the way, even if she is held hostage by us, she will definitely find a way to escape or obstruct us. At that time, if we are not careful, we will be doomed eternally. But if we imprison Meng Tong and make someone look like Meng Tong, won't we be able to deceive everyone? Fatso spoke frankly with assurance. His thoughts were almost the same as Qin Feiyang's. The pangolin was stunned and said with a flattering smile, Fat bro, awesome. Of course. Fatso smiled proudly. Wolf King said, capturing Meng Tong is not difficult, but who will replace her? Don't we have a ready-made person here? Fatso chuckled and turned to look at Lu Hong. Lu Hong opened her eyes and said helplessly, Damn Fatso, you are pushing me into the fire pit. Although she had been cultivating, she had heard the conversation between Qin Feiyang and the others. Fatso said with a smile, If you don't sacrifice the child, you won't get the wolf. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.